a little bit, and then I'll notice that it's going live, and I'll be like, oh, is the camera on?
Yeah.
Has the camera been on the whole time? So let's hope that works. And then I'll say okay, I'm there talking, it's going live, and I'll be like, oh, is the camera on? Has the camera been on?
I can hear it. I forgot to mute.
We can all hear it.
The player there.
No, I had it open. I had it open as well because I wanted to check it a second time. Hi, you're with Scott. I'm Ganjikidd. I'm the Super Chuffer. It's midnight. It's always midnight. This is your right ear and your left ear. I've got Steve of the Dead with me. We're going to be discussing Prince Andrew on Thus. I haven't got my calm and relaxing, and I need my calm and relaxing music because my dog's just started barking in the background. So why is that on mute? Unmute the calm, relaxing music, and away we go. This is Thus, a podcast about how people think, feel, and behave. And today we're going to be taking a look at one of the most interesting interviews of recent years, the Prince Andrew interview. With me today, Steve. Steve of the Dead is a forensic psychologist, so the perfect person to be picking through this interview with. I'll just put this out there at the start. You don't have to suicide us. I'll take the money. Right, I'll take the money. If you want like a big bundle of cash, an OBE, that'll be fine for me. I'll just take the money. I can't speak for Steve, but I'm sure he feels the same. You don't have to do any, like, we won't be saying the big E word. We'll be calling him Jeffrey. And that's as much of an introduction as I've got written. Steve, how are you this week?
I'm suddenly worried because there's quite a big window like to my right here. And, you know, from like any of like my neighbors' houses, you could from the roof, like, you know. So yeah, if it goes too far and I suddenly slump in my chair.
Oh, I think they like to do things a bit more personally, these days, don't they? Hello everyone in chat. Hello Dayglow Hour, massive fan of your work. The Cat Ballyhoo in chat here. We will take your chat as we go. We've got some notes. We've got an interview. But if you pipe up in chat, I'll just take it as it comes. We're going to be fairly relaxed.
Yes. By the way, yes, I would take free pizza. I will take Pizza Express gift cards. As payment for this.
What
you could buy my silence with pizza, yeah.
What you could tell me in chat for me is the sound balance all right? Is Steve okay? Is the backing music okay? Is it quiet enough, the backing music? Is it intrusive? And when we get
I feel like I'm in a supermarket. I feel like I'm in Debenhams or something.
Like, it's the background music.
Yeah.
I go for calm, relaxing
During
video.
Christmas.
I go for calm, relaxing video game music, and it just gives me what it gives me. But if I choose, you know what will happen is if I choose a specific game like Zelda or something, then we'll get like
copyright.
Well, no, not just, I think the copyright will be fine, but we'll get like the Temple of Time at the wrong time or something, and it'll like everyone will be like, oh, I love that. So I try and go like kind of. Some people sometimes recognise the tracks, but I don't. So try and just go background. It sounds good, like it's Dead Rising or something. There we go in chat. They know exactly recognise the tracks, but
like a giant mall or something. When I'm like the Arndale.
Yeah, maybe I should. Well, I think it's okay. What I might do is I might mute it when we do the interview bits, and I might unmute it when we do the thing. So, where do we start with this, really? Before we start with the actual interview itself.
We've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally,
because of course they came to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. We really need to talk about who Prince Andrew is, just for an international audience, for anyone that doesn't know. So I've got some little notes. I've got Andrew he's the second child of the Queen, isn't he? Like
third.
Oh, is he the third?
It's Charles and then Anne.
Yes.
There's Charles, there's Anne, and then there's him, and then there's Edward. So yeah, he's third.
So he's not even a spare wheel like Prince Harry. He's like the third spare wheel.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
while like Charles had his future guaranteed from birth, and Anne had her sort of like place just in case, he was further behind than that. So yeah, there was never really like a given destiny for him like there was the other two.
Yeah, and he grew up as like what many perceived to be quite a spoiled child, I guess. And he went to a boarding school where Charles, being a bit more soft touch, didn't like the boarding school, but apparently Andrew got on fine. Enjoyed bullying and being bullied, apparently. After that, he went in the Navy and was a bit of a party, known as a party prince, known as a bit of a wild one, always at the disco. Didn't settle down until after he went to the Falklands War, didn't he? And he was...
Yeah. Should we quickly point out his nickname around this time? When he was still like partying out while in the Navy. He was He was known as Randy Andy,
Randy.
which I'm sure is not going to come back to haunt us later.
Randy Andy, yeah. And he came back from the Falklands. I remember because I was, my mom tells me, I was born around the time of the Falklands, and so I remember the sort of the attitude of what we'd done in the Falklands. The Falklands was a war between the UK and Argentina. We had a little island. It's really close. It's more close to Argentina than it is England. We own this little island, and then they tried to take it back, and we went out there and said bollocks. And it was sort of seen as a sort of nationalist fervour in a way, wasn't it? It was like flag waving and celebration, and he became he did active duty out in the Falklands and came back a decorated hero, so to speak, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that for whatever issues people have with the man, and there are very legitimate issues people have with him, he did do that. He was a helicopter pilot. He did take part in active service during the Falklands. It's one of those like indisputable historical facts. So, yeah. But it's not unheard of. I mean, presidents have served in the army. I mean, royal family do tend to serve in one of the armed forces anyway. Sometimes it's the army, sometimes it's the navy, sometimes it's the air force. Many of them are actually like helicopter pilots. William's a helicopter pilot as well, search and rescue. So
yeah, I think there's a slight difference.
Not an uncommon thing. Harry did as well. Harry served in Iraq.
Harry talked about actual active service in his recent book, didn't he? So yeah, I would say They do tend to do it. I think what William's done recently with the helicopters is more like ambulance work, and I think maybe it was more
search and rescue stuff. Yeah,
I think maybe Andrew was more involved in some more aggressive military operations, but I don't know. Leave that there anyway. He came back. He married Fergie instead of being the party boy. He settled down and married a bit of an outsider to the picture, Sarah Ferguson, who was, if I get her up as well, might as well.
She was not necessarily royal. She's kind of like Meghan in a way, because she wasn't of royal class or like the very upper echelons of our stratified social society. That's a way of putting it. Our class-ridden society. She was just like a level or two below him. She was still of rich stock, as it were. She had
a pony.
It was Charles's like riding instructor's daughter, I think, or something like that. They were related that way, so she knew Diana. She was friends with Diana,
and she had a pony. So like, she's not like they play polo and stuff like that. She's not short of a buck or two, but she did work in publishing.
Just before we move on from Fergie, and I know that we're going to get to the musical later, but there is an amazing part in Prince Andrew the musical where they show a clip of how they met, which was fairly famous at the time, and she says he offered her a profiterole. So throughout the musical number, they make jokes about it being her profiterole in this, and it's just consistently crap. Like 4 times during this whole musical piece, and it was fucking hilarious every time. So yeah,
cool.
Gonna work in a couple of references. It's great. Watch it.
She was known as being a bit of a good egg, though. A bit, get her hands dirty. Some people
might
have seen
first. But...
Yeah, some people might have seen her as a bit of a leech at some point, taking a few freebies and living the high life. They've got children now, and then they divorced, didn't they? I've got some notes here about timelines.
Yeah. I love Fergie. She's great.
He became
one of my favourite associated royals.
He split with Fergie in '92, and Prince Andrew became the UK Trade and Investment Envoy in 2001. So there was like an 8-year period where he was single, still in the military. And
desk jobs though at that point, wasn't it? He was moving to retire away from the military, and Tony Blair offered him that envoy result.
And this is where we get all these pictures of him sweating that we've got here. So just like for context, he was out partying at the clubs and stuff like that. Still on his partying ways after he split with his wife at that point. Should
we get the sweat out of the way now then?
Well, I just say,
or should we wait until?
We'll wait until it comes up, but these are the pictures.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
They're just example. And then it will come up later, yeah. So just on my timeline as well. So while we're doing this interview, when he's ended up as this trade investment envoy, he's had a party boy lifestyle, and he's out there doing this sort of stuff. Well, what's happened is that in 2021, so this is years later than all this now, so I've got to get my timeline right here. He became this trade and investment envoy in 2001. So he's been doing that for about 20 years, doing this trade and investment role abroad, going to different countries, meeting, posh people. No one can specifically say to me exactly what it is he's doing, but he's some sort of trade and investment envoy. I think it's about selling guns. I might be wrong. But 2021, this woman, Virginia Guthrie, comes forward, Virginia Roberts, and says that she was sex trafficked to him through Big Jeff. And that's...
Wait, was that in 2021?
I think it's
is it
August.
that came out? Because there was the earlier case with Epstein.
Oh, you said his name, you chuffer. You got to
The
call
earlier
him
case
Big
with
Jeff.
Where he'd been mentioned in an affidavit statement.
Oh, yes, of course.
I
Right.
know, it's because the interview takes place in 2019, so I'm trying to anchor it that way. I don't know.
Maybe I've got my date wrong with Virginia coming forward then. Maybe this is the second time she's had a court case. But
maybe
you're
she's
right.
mentioned, and then in 2021 it was revealed that it was her.
Because what happens is that, you're right, he meets Big Jeff in 1999, and they're friends. And then in 2001 is the incident where he's photographed with Virginia. Apparently she's trafficked to him. Then Epstein is convicted in 2008 of a criminal offence. It took between 2005 and 2008 for him to end up, these court cases drag on and all this, but he was convicted of an offence against a 14-year-old girl, and he went to prison for 13 months in 2008. So at that point, Andrew distances himself from Big Jeff. That's Big Jeff there. And this is where we get this famous photograph of these two talking in the park, where he flew all the way to New York to explain they couldn't be friends anymore. So that will come up in the interview. This is just the timeline of events. So this is why he's being interviewed, isn't it? Is because Virginia's come forward and said that these things have happened. And
in 2014, because I brought up the wiki, 2014
Right.
Florida court filing.
Oh,
She
that was
describes
third,
being
okay.
trafficked to Prince Andrew at least 3 times in 2001.
I got that wrong. 2014.
Then in 2011, he was asked whether he'd have information, because that's when his role as the trade envoy was terminated, and he cut ties with Epstein. That's that point right now. And then,
Jeffrey.
sorry, I'm reading. I'm quoting. Susan, don't strike us or anything. I'm quoting someone. Yeah, in 2021, she started the New York lawsuit against Prince Andrew. So yeah, but that's because in 2015. Spokespersons for the British royal family stated that any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue, later repeating the denials. And any requests for him to testify under oath were returned unanswered.
So it's a really weird thing in a way, isn't it? Because
it's an odd one for him to choose to do this interview. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely that. But I'll tell you something else that's weird, right?
I mean, at this time as well, because it's
throughout his life and throughout all the lives of most of these top celebrities or whatever, he's a royal, but there are people that will come forward and make accusations, and they expect maybe a payout, or they tell lies and they just want to be in the public eye, and so what was sort of maybe
that's why this interview is just taking place. I've just checked when Jeffrey died.
Oh, the chap died, yeah.
In 2019, so that's why we're having this talk with Emily Maitlis now.
Right. Yeah, so what I was going to say, though, is that people in these circles, people come forward all the time and make accusations. It goes in the media. There are splash stories on the tabloids. And I think from Andrew's point of view, I think in some way he thought that the whole world would just assume that this woman was just trying to get some money out of him, and that she's just like all the other people who come forward and talk about rubbish. And, in today's day and age, post-Me Too, the landscape is a bit different. But before that, in the world of him, out there, tabloid photos, stuff like that, it's not unknown for him to be seen with women and for rumours to abound, but them to end up with nothing. And maybe, I don't know if he's paid people off in the past, but quite often with these top level people, the stories come out and people maybe are happy with just a payoff. We talk about Donald Trump grabbing her right by the thingy, and didn't he pay out some porn stars and stuff? It just sort of goes on.
Stormy Daniels,
So this is sort of like a common theme. So
my inner generation.
So when we go into this interview, it's not maybe from Andrew's point of view, that's maybe the story he's going to put across, is it? That from my perspective, I think that's what he assumes he's going to be able to do, is sit down and say, oh, of course, I'm royal and I have to just deal with this stuff, and isn't it sad for me that I have to deal with these accusations? I feel like he might be prepared for some sort of different tone of interview. What do you think?
Maybe some sort of deference, really. I don't think he's prepared for the questioning the pushback that he gets from Emily. He's used to being, he's used to using his privilege. He's used to be like, I'm a royal, I'm this, I'm rich, I can do whatever I want. And he has, for most of his life, been able to indulge that. He was a party prince, and there was a period where he was swanning it around in other countries, acting as like a trade envoy for the country. So he's been able to swan about and really enjoy the benefits of his birth. And Emily Mateless pushes back. She questions him, and when he sort of like bats away the question, or tries to go down a different path, or tries to re-explain something differently, she goes, no. So what about this? She follows up a questioning. She also gives him so much rope through how she lets him answer that it really is. Like my very first note is mad props to Emily Mateless for this one. It is an amazing interview because she nails it.
I will say that,
to quote the musical, she nailed it.
Yeah, we've got a little clip of that coming up later, but we can't show a lot of it because of copyright. But I also want to show, this is the producer of the interview, and she did a lot of work to make the interview happen. I watched a few interviews with her, and we're going to look at the end a little clip of her talking about how it went as well. So I'm really interested. What's interesting to me is that the group that put this together was women, and they worked hard to get this done, and I don't know if you call it laying a trap or good journalism or whatever, but they certainly had a sharp mind and a direct idea about how to go about this. And in my mind, they were a bit smarter than the subject of the interview, and they got a lot out of it for that reason.
Oh yeah, definitely. They did their work and they prepared. They knew. That's the thing, though. They knew what sort of person Andrew was, because he's not used. He's not unused to being in this sort of position. He's given interviews before. He's spent his whole life in the with the press, constantly watching. He's a royal, so anything he does was subject to scrutiny by the press, and he spent his life doing that. So he thought he's got a belief that his relationship with the press will be a certain way, and they knew that. So they were like, well, let's do this then instead. We're going to read him like a book and plan how we're going to handle him in advance, and it comes off masterfully. They totally played him. They let him hang himself.
So to speak. Hello Snood in chat, how are you doing? I was listening to you yesterday on the That Being Said podcast. It was really good. What I was going to say then is, one of the things I want to make clear is, we talked about this before, is just before we went live, is we think that we could take this interview apart minute by minute and really, if we did that, every minute will provide us 10 minutes, 20 minutes of conversation. We'll be here for hours. It's a 50-minute interview. That's 5 hours of extrapolated talking. So what we might do is, I'm going to play a little bit
keeping it quick.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to play a little bit at the start just to set the scene, and then we're going to jump straight into the difficult questions. And I've got my questions marked out and my moments marked out. Steve can also at any point say, what about this moment? Let's go here. And if there's anything we don't quite cover at the end, we can maybe go back over little bits and pieces. We're going to try and keep it, the whole stream, to about 3 hours or so. And then there will be things that we don't cover, like extra detail, body language analysis. We have time in the future to add that to our content offering. So it might be that in the future we go over this with that fine detail comb, maybe even I don't know, without any sort of time barrier, and just say, when we finish.
When we're done, we're done.
Yeah, we talk. And we might make that B-side content, or if we ever get to a point where we get members, because please, can we have some subscribers, some likes, some comments or whatever on this, all the algorithm and all that. I need to get monetized this year. I'm less and less concerned with actually putting adverts on the content. That's a different conversation, but I am more and more concerned with finding a place for us to be sustainable so that we can continue to create. So
organic growth.
Yeah. And so it might be that other content, like we say, that 5 hour, 10 hour deep dive on the body language, goes on the B side. So with that being said, the interview is thus. I feel bad using it in the wrong way like that. It actually offends me to say it.
We've come to Buckingham Palace in highly unusual circumstances. Normally, we'd be discussing your work, your duty. We'll come on to that. But today, you've chosen to speak out for the first time. Why have you decided to talk now?
Because there is no good time to talk about Mr. Epstein and all things associated. We've been talking to Newsnight for about 6 months about doing something around the work that I was doing.
So I'm just going to pause that there. I don't want to hear about the work he's going to be doing, and stuff like that. It is strange, isn't it, that after, I didn't realise until you put it on the timeline then, that after the death of Jeffrey, now is the time that he's decided to come forward and speak. Have you got any input just on that first?
Yeah, because now Jeffrey can't come back out and go, no, mate. Is the proof of my version of events. That's like, me and you were like that, and you were always around my house, getting to know some girls of questionable age. There's no chance of that now. He's completely safe to put across his side of the story. With Jeff gone and Ghislaine, going through the going through the courts and the prison system at this point, he's safe. So he could be like, right, I'm going to do it now. It's like, imagine you were a streamer who had been made fun of on the internet, and then one day the person who made fun of you was caught cheating on his wife. So you put out a tweet about this that directly mimicked a tweet that he'd used to insult you, and everybody was like, wow, haha, that's hilarious. And then it goes to your head, and while you're in the shower before you stream, you decide to have a debunk stream where you can go over all the slander that the internet has put on you and go, wrong, no, this never happened. It's almost like that.
I want to go straight in deep. All right, then. We're going to talk about these other characters, and I'm going to talk about their backgrounds in a little bit as they come up a bit more. But straight in deep, it's interesting that I feel Ghislaine is someone that he could get to. Like, he could silence, and there are methods and behind the scenes goings on that he could get to and silence. And Ghislaine, I think he could maybe even trust, because when you've got something on someone and someone's got something on you and you're mutually invested in these things, who's going to speak, who's not. Whereas Jeffrey, being a New Yorker, being an outsider, being not part of the social set, not of money, and more self-made, I think it's more likely he might have gone off the reservation and made some threats and got himself in some trouble, where Andrew ultimately, and the people that are around Andrew's got the Secret Service around him, hasn't he? He's got some quite heavy hitters around him, and there are some quite big amounts of money that go on. Maybe Jeffrey, that's me saying this early, but I think, but in terms of doing this interview, like you say, now Jeffrey's dead, I totally agree with you there. Yeah, now he can't tell his side. It's only Ghislaine that can tell her side, but as I say, I think she's silenceable. What do you think about that?
I think he just knows that's suicidal, because she's probably somebody else who could bring him now, but she's unlikely to from prison in America, whereas this is here in the UK. This is the two different societies, and she's over there, and it's going to be very, very difficult for her to get back at him. So actually, he's probably feeling a bit of distance there, So plus, yeah, they were the friends. That's the point. Bob Cassidy in chat says Ghislaine got on well with Andrew. That's how he met Jeff, through her. They were friends first, and they were very good friends.
I will take this now. Ghislaine Maxwell is the daughter of financier and former Labour MP Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell,
a newspaper
mogul, yeah. What he did was, he was Jewish, Czechoslovakian, and Hitler invaded. So he was young. He lived in a house of multiple brothers and sisters, poor, and then war destroyed his country. At the young age of, I think he was between 15 and 18, I can't remember the exact age, but he was coming home. He decided to cut off his Jewish hair and to escape, essentially, to work for the Hungarian army. He was in the Hungarian army, and he fought against the Nazis. So essentially, he seems like a good guy on paper, but he was a very big character, aggressive character. Some say he worked both sides. He was a spy for the Soviets, as well as working for... Then he went to the French Foreign Legion, and he ended up in the UK. He was big in the UK army. He was in the British army, and he ended up also having ties with Israel. So there's lots of conjecture about whose side he was on. But he has, he was a very successful businessman, a bit like a Donald Trump figure in a way, very ruthless, very on his own side. And so he became very rich. He did some very underhand dealings. He took the money. He bought a publishing company, and through the process of working with his publishing company and another investor, the other investor became poor, and Robert Maxwell became very rich. And like the money sort of flowed through towards him. He ended up taking the pensions of the Mirror Group. He bought the newspaper, the Daily Mirror, and they had a pension fund. And he, like, in the end, they had no pension fund, and he'd taken millions. So the culmination of all this was that he was found dead in the sea off the back of his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, and it was a suspicious circumstance, maybe a suicide, maybe. He was busted for all this fraud and profit making off the fraud. And at that time, Jeffrey Epstein had become his friend. Jeffrey Epstein stepped in as Ghislaine's friend at the most tragic moment in her life, you know.
Yeah.
And Ghislaine, what's noticeable as
he
well,
took over it, like he took over a business. Jeff took over Robert Maxwell's business operations, and that's how he smoothed his way in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what's I think he was brought in as well during the pension fund problems. I think he brought his way in. Jeff, just as a side note, Jeff is a bit of a self-made person, successful in the stock market, aggressive in business as well, but not from big money, not from any storied history, just in New York, reasonably right place, right time. He went to business school, I think, and ducked out, and instead just made his money aggressively through business dealings. I'll just say that. And then what's interesting about
I'd also
Ghislaine,
just like to shout out the people in both the YouTube comments and chat sometimes, and the person on Twitter, who are both called Alive and Well. So because they're very, very funny people to follow.
That's true, actually. I do see them.
Shout
on
out to them.
The real Jeffrey account. Yeah. What's interesting, and I think is notable about Ghislaine, is that when Robert went off the back of the boat and died, he's got two sons, and they did inherit the debt and the problems. He's got a wife who he was estranged from, but she's still alive. She's the matriarch of the family. But it was Ghislaine who took the mantle. She went on the boat. She was the one in the safe. She was the one with the papers. She was the one who stood in front of the media and said, this is very sad and things are happening X, Y, Z. She was that, like, the public face of the family. She was his favourite. She was the daughter of 9. Like, there were 9 children. She was the little girl, the little favourite. He named his boat after her. She was daddy's girl. And what was interesting is whatever was in his safe on that boat, whatever reasons he went into the sea, it's maybe more at the time it was more common. The idea is that he ran these big newspapers, like a Rupert Murdoch figure, and what they would do is they'd take photographs of celebrities in compromising positions, maybe get something on you, and then they've got you on a file in the safe, and maybe you have to do something for them, and it's a bit of a grimy business, all that world. That's what was levelled at him, maybe as an accusation, as a general behavioural accusation. So it's interesting to think that Ghislaine was the one who was not putting out the financial fires, but in some way she was first one on that boat. She was first one in his affairs, in those papers, in that safe. And she didn't speak. She didn't talk. It was all kept internal. She didn't say, "Oh, we've got these files on these people. He did this bad thing. Now we've got the financial records." She kept a lid on the whole thing. So that's Ghislaine's rise into this position. She is sort of thrust into this position now, bereft of the moneyed father, now friends with Jeffrey Epstein because he is her life jacket in this situation, maybe. They're now in it together. They become a couple. They become Ghislaine and Jeffrey. In fact, I should have a picture of that. But yeah, so these are these background people, and these are these characters that we're talking about. I'm sure most people know the general gist, but I just thought we'd give a general gist. Have I missed anything out?
Quick overview, yeah.
We're okay there, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that said, right, 8 minutes 18 is my first one. With that said, so we know that it's come out. We talked about it earlier that Big Jeff was trafficking young girls essentially, and it seems like a very similar situation. Take photographs of powerful people with these trafficked girls, get them in compromising positions, have something over on them. And maybe that was where Jeffrey stepped into Robert Maxwell's shoes. This is a question then that is levelled. Sorry, it's not a question. We know he was convicted. So the first question of any venom that Emily levels at Prince Andrew, Okay, wait.
Yeah, but first, before you hit play, just
before.
remember he chose to do this.
Yeah,
there were
that's a good-
people
in
on the
chat,
inside.
Vegan Dolls, asks, is it really a good idea to do the interview? Go, Steve. Yeah.
He probably did. Yeah, he probably thought this is like my chance of like putting my side out and like actually putting the issue to bed, or at least convincing people. He's probably thought for all his life, I'm a charmer, I can convince anybody to do anything because I swan around with the upper echelons of society. I swan around with the rich and famous. I am powerful, I'm a royal. So he probably thinks he can sweet talk anyone into believing anything. And then now that we've said Jeff is gone, this is his opportunity, and he probably thinks this is it, this is my chance, I can do this. So in his head, even though there probably will have been people inside, if not, family members, then at least like advisors and confidants who will have said, this is a bad idea, don't do it. He's probably thought, nah, I can do this. I've got my stories lined up. I know what I'm going to say about certain things. I can do this. It'll be fine. Because we know that afterwards, he thought he did okay.
Yeah.
And we know that since then, he's wanted to come back into a more public role, and he's wanted to start using his official titles again. So we know he thought this was a good idea, and he continues to think it was, and he's done nothing wrong.
Because he's got this entourage around him who basically love him and say he's brilliant all the time, and Prince Andrew would be. There was maybe a set of people in society that actually the Playboy Prince, maybe they admire him and fancy him a bit. There seemed to be a certain maybe group of women amongst the elite set that thought he was maybe a bit of a catch, and they swooned over him a little bit.
For like 10 years, he was Britain's most eligible bachelor, wasn't he? So period where he was unmarried before he met Fergie, where he was a man about town. He was an eligible prince. So yeah, that's that's going to be attractive to a lot of people.
Do you think there's any element of because you talk about narcissism with the other guy about the other guy about that DSP fellow? Do you think he's traits of narcissism, this infallible ego, maybe?
Yeah, I do. I don't know fully, but when I was going through the interview, there were just little points here and there where I thought, that's how DSP would respond. Like when, like in the way that he answers questions, or like the tone of voice that he uses, or the sort of like she'll ask him about one thing and he'll start talking about another first to sort of preload his argument with things you need to know before I answer. And it's like there were little elements of that where I thought this is what Phil would do. So plus, again, you've had a lifetime of like public telling you you're a royal, and for most of his lifetime, the public approval of royal family was quite high. So,
and he's a prince, and he's a
that
war
sort of thing
decorated.
goes to your head. Yeah, he's a prince. He's a prince.
Been to the war,
So.
He's done his duty and all this business. Yeah. I think as well, you're absolutely right, Bob. Hello, Bob in chat. Ghislaine got on well with Andrew. They're from the same sort of sect, aren't they? They go to the parties together. They're seen at the same events. It was absolutely known that she was friends with that sort of group, Yeah, absolutely, I would agree with that. So he's got to this position when his friend has been not only accused but convicted of being Big Jeff has been absolutely convicted of being a sex trafficker, has ended up dead, and the prince has now got questions to answer because this woman has been saying this stuff. So that's where we're up to now, isn't it? He's decided this is a good idea, and this is the first venomous pointed question laid at him.
Sorry, I can't be...
So no contact?
No contact.
When he was serving time, there was no call, no letter, nothing there?
No.
He was released in July. Within months, by December of 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always... ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do?
Do you want to tell me when to stop, or do you want me to just to stop? And...
I want just skim back a bit. When she says, "Why did you go to the house of a convicted sex offender?" Watch his response to the phrase "sex offender."
He was serving time. There was no lie. Within months, why were you? 2010, you went to stay with him at his New York mansion. Why? Why were you staying with a convicted sex offender?
Right. I have always...
Fuck. That makes him uncomfortable. And more than sort of like being able to go, why were you with Jeff? Why were you staying with Jeff? Why did you go see Jeff? He's like, well, because he's a friend of mine, and it's. I felt like it was the right thing to do. But when it's phrased as in context of the act itself, he's visibly more uncomfortable. It's something that happens a couple of times throughout the interview. So he gets, and he's like, how do I handle this now? Oh, well, I have to, So he leads in like that. He tries to soften the blow of the phrase sex offender or sexual assault or words like that, phrases like that. It's anything that refers to the act.
It's very interesting. Like you were praising Emily Mattis. Like this is. Like I would find in my life, if I ask somebody these honest, straightforward questions, like I might get pushback from them because, like, what the, I thought this was going to be a nice interview, and now you're saying sex offender, and but she seems to get away with it in a way, doesn't she? But in a very cold and very reasonable way. Why were you staying at home? Like we laughed when she said it because it's like a very clever question, but it's very brutal as well at the same time. And what I'd see is like he doesn't try and engage with that in any way. He's like, okay, I'll take this question. I'm going to deal with this. Like, if you ask that to, like, let's say I'm on the red carpet or interviewing, and I ask, why were you doing? They just say, right, no interview. Like, fucking get away. Do you know what I mean? There's that barrier put up, but Andrew doesn't appear to want to deflect that in any way. He's quite happy, even though you say he's uncomfortable with it. He's quite happy with the concept itself, and he's not going to shout that down. He's going to have to accept that, I guess. Like.
I think it's more about how he thinks he can handle the question, because he knows that the question of why did you stay there is going to come up. So he has his reason, he has his answer prepared, but he's not expecting the phrasing of it in that way. He's expecting a sort of like, so why did you go and stay at Jeff's? Why were you there with Jeff? Why did you stay there? He's expecting that, and the blunt nature of the wording unsettles him. So he has to try and divert back to getting into this is why I was there, rather than sort of like dealing with you're right, he was a convicted sex offender. He's got to go back to my initial, you see, when I'm traveling, you have to understand I was going there to see him, and then it sort of goes off like that. He has to go back around in a circular way to get to his statement, his reason, the thing he wanted to say. He's just shaken by the way she's phrased it, and again, giving him rope. Because the more he blathers on, the more contradictory information he reveals, and the more
we'll let him blather on a bit more. What I wanted to say as well is, do you go with the neuro-linguistic programming eyes theory, or is that like a no in psychology anymore? Because I think some people don't really.
It's not a hard and fast rule that if you look one way, you're thinking about something, and if you look the other way, you're trying to remember something. It's not a hard and fast rule but there is a lot of evidence to suggest that when your eyes are looking around, there is some processing going on, and it might be visual, it might be episodic, it might be linguistic, it could, there could be any sort of reason why your brain is processing something. So, I mean, most of the time you're processing anyway, because you're trying to arrange your speech in a sentence and then get it said, and that takes a bit of resource. So it's a sign that something's going on, but it's not necessarily a sign of it's a lie or he's telling the truth,
Okay, so we'll leave that, because I could like try and dig into some of those body language things like that, but maybe we do that in the 5-hour episode and we concentrate more on the context and the content
and the
of what he says.
Rather than
Let's let him blather on a little bit with this this response.
I have always...
You tell me when to stop.
Ever since this has happened, and since this has become, as it were, public knowledge that I was there, I've questioned myself as to why did I go, what was I doing, and was it the right thing to do? Now, I went there with the sole purpose of saying to him that because he had been convicted, it was inappropriate for us to be seen together. And I had a number of people counsel me in both directions, either to go and see him or not to go and see him. And I took the judgment call that because this was serious, and I felt that doing it over the telephone was the chicken's way of doing it.
I'm just going to pause that there. Right?
Yeah, go on, yeah.
Because this is where we're at, isn't it? This is where we're at. We're at this moment. He's gone out to talk to him face to
the
face. That's the famous photograph that was taken. And clearly, these people don't have these photographs taken by accident. Somebody's arranged this photograph, whether Andrew or Epstein, and they've leaked it to the press, because you can't just accidentally be in the park at the same time. There's security. They're controlling these moments. So it's one thing I wanted to pick up on there that I think is massive is he said, you can't do this over the phone.
Yeah, you can. He says it's the chicken's way out, isn't it?
Yeah, but there are some things that you can't do over the phone, though. Like, really there are. Like, confess to a crime. Because your phone might be tapped, or
I always think breaking up over the phone is.
I suppose breaking up. Okay, yeah, you're talking about honor and reasonable behaviour there, but I'm talking about like saving your. Okay, I'll tell a little story. This is a funny story. I forgot to put the music back on. If I keep turning the music off and on, it won't. I'll forget, but I'll turn it back on now and we'll see. When I was a kid...
Story time with Scott.
Yeah. When I was a kid, I was at school and I was about 10 years old and I wrote a recipe called fuck cake. And what I did was... I got a piece of paper and I wrote it down. And I wrote down, fuck cake, you need like 2 pounds of great big shits and you need a kilo of... I don't know... Yeah, all the worst things I could think of, but I wasn't that even that. You know, I can think of a lot worse things now. Let's say it like that. But I wrote all the rudest words I could think of, and you served it up to 2 fucking idiots. I remember that was at the end, and it was just a little thing that I did. But a girl looked over my shoulder and said, "What's this you're writing? Oh my god, this is bad." So I immediately ran away. They ran after me. I tried to dispose of it. They got hold of it. It went to the teacher, and my parents had to get called into school. So my dad went into school, talked to the teacher. You know, I got in trouble and all this. Some years later, I was working in his office with him, and he pulled open his drawer, and fuck cake was in the drawer, laminated. And I was like, "What the fuck?" Right? He's like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, like obviously I kept this." And I was like, "Why did you keep that?" And he said, "Listen, this is a teaching moment that I couldn't teach you at the time, but never write anything down. Like, if you're going to do something naughty, don't leave a paper trail and an evidence that you've done it. Like, never write anything down." So, like, fuck cake for me is this, like, I can remember it now as like this positive lesson. I was in trouble at the time, but if you were going to do something particularly naughty, not that I would, but if you were, like, you know, we both have our little favourite, you know, relaxing pastime maybe. You know, you tend not to keep notes of things like, you know, on your phone or whatever, do you? Do you know what I mean? Like, you tend not to write things down. So for this moment with Andrew, he says...
There's a reason you pay in cash.
Yeah. And for this moment with Andrew, he says you can't do it over the phone. Now, okay, it could be that you don't break up over the phone. It could be that there are some things you do man to man or heart to heart or fly all the way to New York to do. You know, but for me, the only thing that you can't really do over the phone is something criminally or self-incriminatory. Yeah.
I feel like for me, there are certain crimes where if a friend was convicted of that crime, I feel like my friend would understand if I never saw them again. I wouldn't need to go to theirs and stay with them for a few days while I said it's best that we don't hang out anymore. I think they'd know that I disapproved and I didn't want to see them anymore. You know, it's like it'd be completely cut contact. I wouldn't want to deal with you again. You know, so.
This is.
And the idea that he stayed there because it was convenient as well. I'm sorry, but you are a prince. You telling me you can't afford a hotel?
Yeah, and it's not as easy and convenient to stop in a hotel. It's easier and more convenient to stop in the private residence of a convicted sex offender. And it doesn't, that as well doesn't ring any bells with you to say maybe, you know, if anyone finds out about this, there might be trouble.
Yeah, see, again, when you can't like externalize to the point where you can empathize with other people, that means you can't consider their perspectives. So if you can't consider external perspectives, you can't take an external look at your own actions, because you can't see how your actions might appear to other people. So you can't look at like your actions where you go and stay there and think, how might that look to other people? It's just a thing where you think, right, I'll go and do it. You don't think it might be bad.
Just while we're on this photograph, because really he's got to answer to this because the photograph was taken. I wonder if it's not Andrew that took this photograph, if he didn't arrange this photograph and was naively in a position to be photographed.
I think there's some talk about whether whether Jeff
Yeah, I think
arranged
Jeff.
that, because
Yeah.
it comes later on in the interview. She mentions it and says,
Yeah, she does actually.
you
She
know,
does.
is that like being used to rehabilitate his image?
True.
So, but I mean, either way, Royals, it was possibly just a paparazzi shot, you know, because he's a very significant high up royal, and this is a very significant, like, very rich and powerful convicted sex trafficker. So, you know,
Should I let him play out his answer a little bit, and then I'll jump us onto the actual allegation she makes? Yeah.
Yeah. But also, Cat Valley, who is right, Premier Inn is a little on the costly side nowadays.
Could you imagine? Because now, actually, we'll talk about the ending at the end. But like now, he might have to stop in the Premier Inn, mightn't he? But
to go and see him and talk to him. And I went to see him, and I was doing a number of other things in New York at the time. And we had an opportunity to go for a walk in the park, and that was the conversation, coincidentally, that was photographed, which was when I said to him, I said, look, because of what has happened, I don't think it is appropriate that we should remain in contact. And
he's always so noble, isn't he? Throughout this, he's always doing the most noble thing in the most noble way.
He does try to paint himself like that a lot, especially like in the start when he's like, you know, well, I met him because, you know, I'm a rich and powerful person, and he's a rich and powerful person, and we know rich and powerful people, and he was able to put me in touch with rich and powerful people. He elevates himself a lot throughout the interview. So, yeah, but just like the idea that this is also a conversation you can't have in private. Let's go and have this conversation at the park. You know, where there might be cameras. It's not like people carry cameras in their pockets at this point in time or anything, is it?
There's a pro and a con here. Like, definitely you can't talk in Jeffrey's house because that's cameras as well. Like, they've actually got like little secret cameras probably, and you don't trust Jeffrey anymore. So, like, you can't talk to him there, and you don't want to be recorded. So, I'm imagining Jeffrey was padded down before this conversation by your security in some way, or you hugged him. You know, like in The Wire where you hug them and you go like that, and you know, give them a check. And like I imagine that Andrew was quite careful not to be like directly vocally recorded during this conversation, because whatever it is he's saying, he had to go all the way to New York to say it to his face. I believe that he's concerned with it being actually recorded. Yeah,
true, because if you did call him, you don't know if he's recording the call.
Yeah.
So yeah,
by mutual agreement during that walk in the park, we decided that we would part company, and I left, I think it was the next day, and to this day I never had any contact with him from that day forward.
What did he say when you told him that you were breaking up the friendship?
He was what I would describe as understanding.
All right, hit it there, right there. The way he answered that, it's like, imagine you were talking to a friend, right? You've just been like kicked out of your house because your wife caught you cheating on you, and your mate goes, "So how did she take it?" And you go, "She wasn't happy." You know, he may be downplaying something there.
Yeah. Interesting observation. Yeah.
Understanding,
and it's very unlikely. Like Jeffrey is going to be understanding in this situation, is it? It's very unlikely he's just going to sort of say, "Well, that's all by the by then. Glad we had this chat."
No, I understand, Andrew. That's totally fine. It's been a pleasure knowing you, and all the best. Yeah, I'll set light to the negatives as I promised. Don't worry.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, not happening like that. So, that makes me think maybe he threatened him. Maybe he was like, "Andrew, I swear to God, even try anything. I've got pictures."
Do you know what? This is what getting into the meat of this walk in the park before we move on from it. Where's my pictures? I actually think Andrew's potential MO. I've turned off the background music. I can't keep turning the background music on and off. I might just have to leave it on. Like,
leave it on. It's fine then. Yeah.
I'm rubbish at it. And I've skipped it around now by mistake. So there we go. I think that Andrew would. I don't want to get myself murdered on the internet. I don't want to say something that might be considered to be lander or slibel. But
allegedly, hypothetically,
it could be possible that if I were a rich prince and MI5 or MI6 or the Secret Service were on my side, and I'd fought in the war and I was friends with some of them who then got their jobs in those positions because they were friends with me during the Falklands, and you know we've got a bit of a network that scratch my back, scratch your back. If I've got someone who says they've got some dodgy photos of me, I can have that person removed or silenced collapsed, first of all, I might offer them money. Like if it's I might say, how much money do you want to shut up? And then you sign the NDAs like Donald Trump did with that woman. Or I could say, okay, if you're not going to sign the money and you don't want to do that, have you met my friend James Bond and his friends? It's not like James Bond in the movies. It's different. They'll take you in the thing in the back of a van with the thing on your head and they'll scare you. So I think there's a potential for that. But I think Jeffrey might be the sort of person who might not, like, money's not going to be why would he want the money? Like, he can't, he's got lots of money already and he has access to it and all that. So it can only be the threats. And then you start to threaten somebody who in themselves is a narcissistic personality who, has this delusion of grandeur, who sees himself as a bit of I don't know what ties he's got with what people in New York, but, he's from a different part of the world from the UK. He's not easily silenced like some girl, and he might have photographs of you. So maybe there's a bit of back and forth in this conversation about who's going to go down, who's going to take what fall. I'm not going to be tarnished with this brush, am I, Jeffrey? There's no way my name is going to come out here, is there, Jeffrey?
Well, see, here's the thing. They're on an even footing. They're both powerful men. They both have, like, social and economic ties. They're both rich. They're both famous. They're both, like, on a sort of, like, even social level. So, like one couldn't make the other disappear. Like if Andrew had come to Jeff's and they'd had a talk and then Andrew was never seen again, there's no way that would not, be investigated.
True.
Police would be on that house. Jeff would not be able to get away with that. And the other way round. No way Andrew would be able to get away with something like, imagine a royal family member murdering. Well, actually, given the history of the royal family member, it's actually the royal families that we've had in this country.
Oh, we're going to get murdered.
Like a statistical anomaly.
We're so dead. I love.
But I mean, it would be a huge scandal. So they're both on an even sort of thing. Yeah, thank you. I love our king.
That's a good point. It's difficult for them to like strong arm each other. Another question I might have had about this is, at the time the vultures were circling, it seemed that someone was going to have to take some sort of fall. The world had changed, the Me Too movement, accusations were flying around, and it wasn't simply, maybe the question was, will this woman be silenced? Maybe he's had to go there and say, look, get your house in order. This woman's causing me problems. Jeffrey, you said it would be okay. Sort it out. Maybe he's trying to lean on him in that way. And again, what can you, like, how can you strong arm someone into doing something, and when someone's off the reservation and they're already out there?
Oh, okay, I've got it. I'll take care of you if you make sure there's no photos of me. I know she's causing us both problems, but if you can get rid of like this evidence, then I'll make sure that you are taken care of. Maybe there's scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Maybe they do like each other. But then again, they could also be just like arguing over custody of Ghislaine.
I mean, one of the bigger problems as well is that I don't want to do an episode on his island and all this other stuff, because it gets you, apparently, I don't know, but and I don't worry too much about YouTube algorithm deletion or whatever.
No,
but
let's
not go there, because this is about Andrew, and like, so that other stuff is actually floating around with Jeffrey, though, isn't it? And so maybe Andrew's got these other, maybe he's been there, maybe he hasn't, but he's got these other, things to point and lean, and then at the end of it, obviously Jeffrey ends up dead, and it could be considered maybe like a hit on Jeffrey. So isn't this the moment where he's like, do what I say or you end up dead?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been lovely. This podcast. But,
I do it all the time, don't I? I manage to completely fuck it all the time. Like,
but I mean, ultimately, what was said during that meeting, there's only two people that know, and one of them's dead. So, the fact that the only other person has made very questionable claims and is not doing the best of jobs putting across his position right now, that should leave his testimony questionable at best.
And there is someone else in the picture, but they're Prince Andrew's security guards, and it's about framing and context. They might not be in earshot, or they might have their earpieces in, and of course they're not going to speak out against Prince Andrew because they're literally his security team. So
it actually looks like they're having a piss. Like they've turned around behind, a couple of feet behind, and they're like having a quick. As they walk, you guys walk on. I'm just, there's a bush here. I'm gonna go.
But I do wonder who took the picture. I think it must be from Big Jeff's side. I think he must be still, you're in my backyard, we're going for a walk, I've got my photographers out. Like, it's more likely he would have the contacts to ring someone and say, quick, get over in this position and make sure you get a snap of me. And it seems like more his MO to be gathering that sort of...
Especially if it's like, you're coming over to stay at my place. There's a nice park nearby. He'll probably have got a couple of pictures of people in there. Yeah, it probably was someone from his side rather than a paparazzi. But again, I just can't discount the possibility that it's just a random pap.
The thing is about the random paparazzi is you get this idea because of like the way they're displayed in the media, that there's always like this group of people with their cameras out waiting outside someone's house because like the famous people, you know, let's always be somewhere. But really, and there are little networks of people on mopeds where you get a call, someone's about to turn up at an event, get down there. But quite often, more often than not these days, they're employed by agencies, and the people that have their photos taken are the ones that told them to turn up and take their photo and make it look like I didn't know, make it look like they sell. Like I know that. For example, I don't know, like, you know, Kim Kardashian visited this store and bought this thing, and it was all arranged, but it didn't look like she knew that anyone was going to take her photo. Like, it's the editorial style of photography that makes it look like you don't know is just completely contrived. So I would guess in this situation, if they're trying to keep hush-hush, he's in the area, he's stopping at Jeffrey's house, either these paparazzi are that committed that they're hanging out at these locations for this, when these two aren't even top line. I mean, they are news. Like, it is news, but like, you know, there are other more lucrative.
For a pap, it's not that it's news; it's that it's valuable because it's news to somebody else. It might not be as big of an issue in America, but in the UK, I could sell this photo of a high member of the royal family meeting a convicted sex offender.
Actually, I suppose that if you knew that Andrew was on the way there and you were a bit smart, you might say, "Look, there could be an opportunity to get a photo here. I'm going to hang around and see." It's hard to know. It's hard to know without knowing how much other celebrity around at the time was buoyant and what other events there were on. Because like, if you are a serious paparazzi and you can't guarantee your photograph, maybe you know. I just feel like it's so clear and crisp and nice that somebody's.
It could be.
Set up.
It's likely to. It's likely that it could have been arranged by Jeff, because again, he could be a thing where he's trying to rehabilitate his image now. You know. So
I'm still friends with the prince. Maybe that. I wonder whether, not knowing the outcome, it might have been important to him to make sure that he's evidence that it happened. Like, just. It's
also that it could be that it's like, hey, mate, I've got evidence that you came to see me in this time. Remember? So watch your lips.
Goes in the portfolio. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to skip us on to 1823, Virginia's allegations, the actual allegations she makes. So he's done a bit more talking. Obviously, if we do too much talking on everything, if between 8 minutes and 18, that 10 minutes, if there's something else I missed, you tell me now.
No, I'm happy to jump around and follow your lead on this, because otherwise we're just going to get into like after every sentence, I'm going to want to be like, right, look how he is there.
Exactly, and we can do a deep body language analysis in the future. Yeah. So 1823, this is Virginia's allegations.
On the walk.
July of this year, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and abusing dozens of underage girls. One of Epstein's accusers, Virginia Roberts, has made allegations against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend.
He nods there.
I have no recollection.
Before he even starts the question answering, he nods along to her rendition of the question.
I think it's recognition of, she said that, rather than, that happened. Or it could be, that was, I stayed at Ghislaine's, you know.
Do you know, it's almost
just like an active listening thing of, I'm listening. Yep, I heard your point.
Maybe. I mean, if someone was reading off a list of, like, essentially sex crimes that I'd been accused of, I'd be like, no. Now, hang on, wait, stop there. That one, before I wouldn't even let them read the whole list. I'd be like, no, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Stop. You're saying more, like, it would make me angry. But he doesn't seem to resonate with that. He's, okay. Like, it seems strange to me.
Against you. She says she met you in 2001. She says she dined with you, danced with you at Tramp nightclub in London. She went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection.
It's like a recognition, an acknowledgement of the allegations that have been made. Because he does wait until she gets right to the end, and it's like, I've heard the allegations. I'm aware of them.
Maxwell, your friend. Your response?
I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember.
Is that a credible denial? His first denial?
I don't buy it because it seems forced, and it's really difficult when it comes to, well, how do you determine what's a forced one and what's a no? I want to be empathetic. I want to be emphatic about this. No, what's a clear and given statement, but the fact that his voice is just like so monotone, and it's a poker face basically. He's putting on a no, that didn't happen. He's trying to be as serious as possible through it. He's trying to give away like no emotion.
I'm led to believe that when people haven't done something, they don't require lots of colourful language in their explanation, because to them it's very clear cut. Did you do X, Y, Z? No. Yeah. No, I didn't. But when you're trying to cover up a lie, then it becomes much more elaborate. No, I couldn't possibly because I was never there. And besides, I don't. You start to ramble more. But it's more emphatic if you are telling the truth. You just sort of say, deny.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, how would you respond to that question with that answer? And it's like, it's be like, no, I've never met her. I don't remember meeting her.
I don't
like, how would you? I think it's the sort of thing where there would be emotion in your voice, and he's trying to remain as flat and as still as possible. Whereas even if you were telling the truth and you'd never met her, you'd be like, never met her. I have absolutely no recollection of meeting this person. Yeah,
exactly. If you've never met someone, you say, I've never met them. I can't remember having not met them. So maybe I definitely, like it's not to, like, I don't know how many, maybe it's because he's the prince and he's met fucking loads of people. But how can you possibly say, like, I don't remember having met them instead of no? Like, where does the, the background music's gone to shit now. Where does the line get drawn between, like, dealing with your, like, for me, that whole discussion of what I remember is surplus, extra, bizarre to me.
You maybe it is because he's a royal, and there is always like the possibility that he has like met, because how many events do you go to as a royal, over your 30, 40, 50 years of public duty? And you're like, do you recall everyone you've ever met, when you will have met tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people across all these, like, look, the Queen dug a thing for a tree to be planted, or this royal was there at a supermarket opening, or hey, I'm here to christen this new like swimming pool and sports center or whatever, or I'm here to open the Commonwealth Games, and all these things. So
that
list was going to get out of hand then. I was going to be like, I understand the concept now.
Rein it in. Okay.
We'll let him continue to tell his thing, and then you do your thing.
Let him dig his
I have
bit.
No recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
You don't remember meeting her?
No.
She says she met you in 2001. She dined with you. She danced with you. You bought her drinks. You were in Tramp nightclub in London. And she went on to have sex with you in a house in Belgravia belonging to Ghislaine Maxwell.
Didn't happen.
Do you remember her?
No. I have no recollection of ever meeting her. I'm convinced that I was never in Tramps with her. There are a number of things that are wrong with that story. One of which is that I don't know where the bar is in
We'll pause that there.
Right. So your defence, the evidence that supports your claim that you have never met this person and you don't remember her whatsoever is you don't know where the bar is in the nightclub where she says you've met. That is, I don't know how that's supposed to work. How is that like evidence for your statement that I've never met her, it didn't happen because I don't know where the bar is in the nightclub?
And also, it's ridiculous because in the nightclub you might have just a waiter just serve you drinks, or a waitress. Like, you're the fucking prince of England, so you probably don't have to go to the bar and fight your way through and like elbow room at the bar. All right, mate. All right, sorry, can I get a vodka and coconut? All right, sorry, can I get a vodka? All right, so you don't have to do that. You're Prince Andrew. You just turn to your lackey and say, "Fetch me more champagne, boy." And that's just how it happens, isn't it? Like, you don't need to know where the bar is to buy someone a drink.
You wouldn't need to know where the bar is anyway, because most nightclubs are generally like, they funnel you into either the dance floor bit or the bar. You go in and it's either like the bar is to your right and the dance floor's like right in front of you, or like the bar is over there and then the dance floor's over there or over there. They're generally, it's not like nightclubs need signs posting you and guiding you, other than like fire exit signs. There's generally not a bar this way, atrium this way, mosh pit down here.
Hello, Fright Zeit. Here from That Being Said, we need more Steve. That's cool.
Oh.
We've got there's a famous Foo Fighters song which goes, "There'll never be enough space," and we just have to substitute the word space for Steve. So there's never be enough Steve. So we'll get that rocking at some point. Plenty of Steve to go around. So yeah, we'll let Prince Andrew continue to dig his own hole here.
I don't drink. I don't think I've ever bought a drink in
Sorry. Like, I've never been in that nightclub because I don't drink. It's like, well, I don't drink, but I've still been in pubs with friends. I've still gone to bars and bought drinks. It's not a defense, is it? It's not evidence that supports the claim that you've never been in that club and never met this person.
As I'm showing on screen now, especially as he's got like multiple, like the way we know Andrew in this country is the man who's at the party, like the prince at the party, as you said, Randy Andy. Like he's always at these events drinking and, well, not drinking, partying and being photographed with multiple people.
You can party without drinking.
Yeah.
You can go to clubs and have a good time without drinking, just because you've never bought a drink in that nightclub, so you wouldn't know where the bar is. You've never, like, you've been there for 4 hours usually at a nightclub, aren't you? It's like 3 to 4 hours to get your money's worth, especially if you paid to get in.
So let's have him again.
At that point, you go without a drink for that long.
I wouldn't suggest that he might have been on any other substance, but he might have been on any other substance as well, and maybe not. Anyway,
yeah, but you need a drink even more then.
Well, depends.
For a lot of substances, you need.
Depends which. No, let's not dig that conversation over.
Tramp.
No, that couldn't have happened because the date that is being suggested, I was at home with the children.
You know that you were at home with the children. Was it a memorable night?
On that particular day, that
she's so sharp, isn't she? Was it a memorable night?
Yeah. Well, that's fair, because the memorable nights stick out more. You can remember a certain night if something memorable happened on it. So you might not remember what you were doing 4 years ago on like July the 17th. But if 4 years ago on July the 17th, you were at a nightclub because it was a mate's party, you'd remember that because it sticks out as a break from your routine. So...
But he's saying he's definitely at home, and she's like, "Oh, is it memorable then?" And he's now got to give a pertinent reason why he would know that it was at home. And this is ridiculous as well because
I had custody.
The date,
so.
Which is the 10th of March. I was at home. I was with the children. I'd taken Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a party at I suppose sort of 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And then
4 or 5 in the afternoon, been to Pizza Express
because the Duchess was away.
That's again plenty of time, right?
Yeah,
you could go
ridiculous.
4 or 5 in the afternoon, and then 9 or 10 at night. I'm at the traps.
Yeah.
Simple
not
rule
drinking
in the family that when one's away, the other one's there. I was on terminal leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you?
So therefore, I was at home. That to me stands out. Like going on the, let's psychoanalyze him, whatever, do the forensic psychology on him. So therefore, I was at home. Isn't I was at home? It's it would logically follow, Your Honour, that I would be at home. I rest my case. What? Who says therefore I was at home? And it doesn't mean that. You've got nannies and you've got butlers and home is Buckingham Palace.
It's somebody who's laying out a story to you that they want you to believe. They can't possibly have been in that nightclub on the day she was suggesting because I was actually out earlier in the day and then I had custody. So We had Pizza Express, and then, you know, we went home and watched like Alvin and the Chipmunks on Netflix or something. Therefore, Your Honor, I can't possibly have done that because I would have been at home. Again, it's not enough of a disruption to your usual sort of routine that you would remember it. So you have to go back and find what you were doing then. And if you don't have like a diary where you keep a proper track of everything,
I wonder if he does have
that's going to be next to impossible.
Yeah, I wonder if he does have like a royal agenda where any royal business would have been recorded, of course, because they would have to keep that, you know, his staff and all those people keep his appointments, but other things maybe don't get recorded, like whether you may have gone to a Pizza Express or not, or certain things like, you know, I'm not sure everything would be accounted for.
No,
he would
if you were doing like your royal duties, that would be one place. But if, you know, you've got like the weekend off and you've got the kids, no, it's something else completely. It would be, it's on you to keep your diary in order. So yeah, it wouldn't necessarily be written down somewhere unless it was like earlier on in the day I'd had, you know, a ceremony where I opened a hospital wing or something. That would be verifiable. But again, that doesn't preclude him from going out later on.
Hello, Puff Puff Pass. They like your hair, Steve.
Oh, I know, yeah. I've got a fan. I'm sorry, I need to brush. I was in the shower before and I've not
Take my breath away. Da-na-na, da-na-na. All right, carry on.
On leave at the time from the Royal Navy, so therefore I was at home.
Why would you remember that so specifically? Why would you remember a Pizza Express birthday and being at home?
Because going to Pizza Express in Woking is an unusual thing for me to do. A very unusual thing to do. I've only been to Woking a couple of times, and I remember it weirdly distinctly. As soon as
that does sound like Dark Side Phil, doesn't it, that one?
Yeah. This is like those moments where I'm like, that is exactly how Phil would answer. Right. Because it's like, to understand that, you are being asked to sort of like accept that Andrew's portrayal of things is unusual. For Andrew, it is unusual to be in a Pizza Express in Woking. You know, it's not a thing he normally does. And the evidence for that is his word. That's it. You're being asked to believe it because that's his evidence. But there's no evidence of it. There's no like, well, how do we know it's unusual for you to be in a Pizza Express? Well, like Woking, wild city, Woking, memorable. You know, once you've been there, you never forget it.
Yeah, Woking. And Pizza Express is quite a mundane thing as well, isn't it? So even if it is unusual, like, okay, I get it, he's the prince, he's not going to be at McDonald's all the time, but it's quite a mundane thing. So the concept of it's not like, oh my God, how the paupers live. This pizza is incredible. I've never seen such a thing. And do they bring it to your table? Like, you know, come on. It's Pizza Express. I don't care if you're the prince or a pauper. It's still a mundane thing. It's still like, oh, well, the kids, I'm having to pick them up from this. Like, he's not going in there and having dinner with the kids' tea party. He's picking his daughter up from an event that happened in Woking. He's potentially in the back of a limousine. That's it. I don't see why.
It's like I've been to Pizza Express a couple of times and I couldn't like exactly recall the dates. I just remember that I've been to Pizza Express a few times with a few different people. But I can also tell you that once when I was in Wales, I had there was like on the promenade, I think is it Conway? But yeah, they have like like one of the food stands and they get ice cream and they do it like a crepe. So they put it on like a heated thing and they smooth it out and then they start flipping it and then they whip it around and it was so nice. And I remember that because it sticks out because it's from the norm. You know, it's an exception. I've never seen it since. I've only ever had it in that one place, so it sticks out. Whereas I can't tell you which Pizza Express restaurants I've been in because I've been in a few, and I don't remember the dates of them because it's a fairly normal thing for me to get pizza. So
I don't even think he would have gone in the restaurant either. So I think it's like a ridiculous premise.
Anyway, he'll have ordered in. You know, he'll have ordered out. Sorry,
but he's picking up Beatrice or one of them from a Pizza Express. Like they went to a birthday party. So like he's just like required to send the car. Like if I don't, that I think was just very flimsy. I'll just give it flimsy at best. And it seems a strange, like, okay, we're in trouble here because I'm being accused of being I'm not going to say these things, but so we need to come up with an alibi why I was definitely not. Okay, well, I picked you up from your friend's birthday party at Pizza Express, probably. That's a good one. Put that on the pinboard and we'll see if we can come up with any others. At the end of a good night's brainstorming, that's still the best one. Like, what?
Yeah.
you're
We
Prince
have to pick
Andrew.
whether it's in London either. Somewhere that it's, you know, if you were here at this point, it's going to take you hours to get back to London to be in this place at this time. So
Maybe it's that. Yeah.
go with Woking. You know,
Woking.
yeah, fine.
Woking. Nobody knows Woking. There's no CCTV in Woking. We're not going to get. Like, and also, if Prince Andrew had been in Woking, wouldn't the people like if he'd gone in the Pizza Express, wouldn't everyone that worked there say, "I remember the day that Prince Andrew came in Pizza Express Woking"? Like
There'd be a
everyone that
picture on
worked
the
there-
wall, yeah.
Yeah, they'd be like,
Like,
even-
you know, like some restaurants have like pictures of like famous people. that
famous
have been
people.
there.
He came in,
Yeah,
Prince
yeah.
Andrew. They'd all know. So you'd have loads of people who'd be able to say, yes, this is absolutely corroborated. I was at that party, and there was Prince Andrew, and I got my phone, and I had a photo. Like, no, none of that happened.
None of his daughter's friends. The daughter, Beatrice, her friend, whose party they were at, has not come out to say, yeah, he was. It
Yeah.
was my party. He was there. You know?
Yeah, we've got no. Just
But
Prince
why
Andrew
would you
said
after
it.
this fucking interview?
I'm going to let the next bit play where he's going to talk about sweat. I'm just going to duck out. I will be back in seconds, so I'm just going to quickly use the bathroom. I'm sure it's enough time
Okay.
while he talks about
Hit
sweat.
it.
Oh yes, I remember that. But I
So-
have no recollection
I'm gonna have
ever
an oat raisin cookie.
meeting or being in the company or the presence.
So you're absolutely sure that you're at home on the 10th of March. She was very specific about that night. She described dancing with you
No.
and you profusely sweating, and that she went on to have a bath, possibly.
There's a slight problem with the sweating because I have a peculiar medical condition, which is that I don't sweat, or I didn't sweat at the time, and that.
I'm
was-
going to
Oh,
interrupt
shit.
this a little bit.
Yes.
Talk over him.
I didn't sweat at the time.
This is
because
like if you said,
I,
Phil, on this
had
day,
suffered what
we
I would
saw you
describe as
carrying
an
your shopping
overdose of adrenaline.
I couldn't
think, in
possibly
the
have done
war when I
that
was
because
shot at.
I've got a bad back.
And I simply.
That's the sort of level we're at here.
It was almost impossible for me to sweat, and it's only
can't
because I have done
possibly
a
have
number of things
danced with her
in the recent past
because I can't
that
sweat.
I'm starting to be able to do that again. So I'm afraid
It
to
is
say
right.
that-
Hit it.
that-
He can't sweat.
Hit it. It's like when Phil picks up, you know, like it's a top 10 DSP gaming moment, but there's no gaming in it. You know, it's when he picks apart it's the fallacy. I think it's called the idea that, you know, this one bit is wrong, therefore all of it is wrong.
Just for
So-
the uninitiated, there's a streamer that is an example of how not to do things, and he creates. He's the catalyst. It was called, wasn't it? I think was it Sam that created that.
Content catalyst.
Content
Shinko.
catalyst.
Shinko
Shinko said that. He's a content catalyst. There's a lot of people who have a lot of interesting ideas about him and his behaviour, and he comes up in our conversations from time to time. Absolutely.
Okay, Scott, while you're here, Google, because this is really stuck out to me. I want you to Google symptoms of adrenaline rush
Right.
and read them out.
Symptoms of adrenaline rush. A pounding sensation in your heart, a rapid heart rate, fast breathing or hyperventilation, shallow breathing, increased sweating, increased ability to run and lift heavy objects. So, but I also understand what Andrew was trying to explain, I think maybe, is that because he had this adrenaline rush during the Falklands, he maybe broke his sweating mechanism, and in some way, like it was permanent, that adrenaline dump.
He then walks that back and says, well, at least at the time. And it's
Yeah.
like, but there's pictures of you between the Falklands and this happening where you're very visibly sweating.
Sweating. We haven't even got to the picture of him in that woman yet, but we're going to get to that. Let's do Sweaty Prince. Here he is, Sweaty Prince. Prince Andrew sweating. Now, the thing is, right, you can make a photograph like this on Photoshop these days. You can make it look a bit darker under the armpits. So I don't know, but he looks pretty sweaty.
They did actually, because of the photo that comes later, there has actually been a lot of scrutiny of whether, you know, some of these photos have been photoshopped, and
Yeah.
it's not very likely. I mean, because like a lot of these photos, especially predate widespread Photoshop use. So, you know, not to say that it wasn't possible to sort of like fake images at that point, but like at that time, why would you have done it for Prince Andrew to make him look a bit sweatier?
Yeah.
You know,
And
it's just not a thing. It's
does
not
seem-
possible for the body to sort of like stop sweating when you
Yeah.
have a spike in adrenaline. It's because your body's getting ready for action. It's getting ready for physical exertion. And part of that process is the increased production of sweat, because we need to regulate our body temperature, and sweat cools us down.
Exactly.
So,
there is that other medical aspect of it, that if he couldn't sweat, then what the fuck is he doing going to a nightclub? Because it could kill him. Because like sweat is a regulator, and like without that regulator, how do you cool down? And then what happens is you can't cool down and you die. Like,
can you imagine him sort of like sat in the corner of tramps going like a dog?
Spray me with ice water. Spray me with ice water. I need cooling. Like, it'd be incredible. Yeah, like yeah, dogs can't sweat, can they? They have to pan. It just So as a medical, the thing is as well, if you want to have that as a medical defence, I wonder whether at some points here, right, this woman's made some accusations. He's on an interview. He's shutting it down. Now, this might not be to us. It might not be to the general audience. It might be that to the general audience, he says, right, well, I couldn't sweat and the whole country believed me. Or it might be that he might be just like cheekily saying, okay, Virginia, if you're going to come at me, this is going to be my defence, and I've got the medical... He hasn't saying I've got the medical people to prove it, but it might scare her into thinking he could produce medical records and he could prove in court that he couldn't sweat. Therefore, it couldn't have been, and she was wrong. And maybe it's a sort of scare tactic, like to seem like he's got cards.
Like I still struggle to sort of like accept the reality that your entire defense is predicated on the idea that you don't sweat, and therefore her recollection of dancing with you is wrong. It couldn't possibly have been you, because she remembers you being sweaty. Not that she remembers you, that she remembers you being sweaty.
Yeah, this is it as well. We dragged it into this minutiae of this strange detail, when instead,
That's
do you remember
DSP
dancing
thing.
with Prince Andrew? Yes, I remember dancing with Prince Andrew. The end. You don't need to know about sweat, Jesus.
It's a DSP thing, though. There's the one thing I'll attack. Therefore, if this thing is wrong, everything about your claim is wrong. If this thing it is untrue, then all of it must be untrue. It's the DSP thing again. That's why I had these little flashes of, God, this is so similar, because of that.
And I wonder, is that similar because the thing is, we watch that particular streamer and make a bit of content about him. I would consider myself nearing detractor status actually today, because I can briefly announce that there's a new channel under the Super Chuffer Empire, and if I search for Send Trees, actually I shouldn't drop this in the middle of this, but it's coming up in conversation. There I am, Send Trees, DSP clip salad. Like, I've just been clipping him.
DSP.
Yeah, so it might come of, you don't know what might come of it, but they've been going on Twitter, so because I had like 20 minutes of them, I put them in a video, and that will keep happening.
Shout out.
Yeah, so maybe I'll become a detractor, but anyway, we talk about this streamer sometimes, but in this general episode there might be people who don't know him, but I think the reason that he comes up in this context like this is because we see him lying a lot, and we know he's lying. And so we learn to tell his tells, we learn to spot a liar, but in general, maybe some of those things happen across the board when people are lying, and Prince Andrew might be exhibiting some of these liars' tells, maybe.
It's possible, because again, you're not in a sort of baseline level behavioral analysis with Andrew, because this is a situation where he's given an interview on national TV. So cameras are on him. Before this started, they were doing his hair and makeup and all that. He's ready, he's prepared for this, he's psyched himself up, he knows what answers he's going to give to the questions, and he's not expecting the pushback, so he's disarmed, and he's not necessarily like how he would be talking to him normally and listening to him tell a tale of a time when he was in the Falklands or whatever. But the way he picks his words and the things he chooses to make his defense, and to sort of like go, well, actually, here's why that can't be right, because those are the sort of things where you can have a deeper look at it and go, well, why are you using that as a defense instead of the more obvious, I've never met this person? Why is your defense that you weren't in the nightclub, that you don't know where the bar is in the nightclub, instead of I've never been in the nightclub? Little things like that. So why is your defense of, I can't possibly have danced with this woman who says she remembers dancing with me, because I don't sweat?
I also find it strange that, like, couldn't my defense be, I was at the nightclub, I danced with her, but I didn't do anything other than that. I went home in my royal car, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Why does everything have to be denied in this weird? Oh right, well I couldn't sweat, therefore it couldn't be me, and I couldn't be in the thing because I didn't know the bar. I couldn't have been there because I can't tie my own shoes, and they say I was wearing shoes, and I don't know how to work shoelaces, so I couldn't wear shoes, so therefore it couldn't have been me. It just seems like you don't need any of that. You can say no, absolutely I was there. These people make up these allegations about me all the time. Throw me some evidence that's concrete that said I'd molested her. Why is it gone so weird all of a sudden? And then so we'll let him push on, shall we, a little bit? And this is next
push on a bit.
Allegations of being there in April. I think this is.
Do you recall any kind of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts then
none,
or any other time?
None whatsoever.
Because she said in a legal deposition, a legal court document in 2015, she had sex with you 3 times. Yeah. She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you.
He laughed then. He found that funny.
She is not confused about this. She said the first was in London when she was trafficked to you. The second was at Epstein's mansion in New York.
That is a date in April, I believe. Is that correct?
She said it was a month or so later.
He's looking down during that. Before he looks up and gives her an answer, he's looking down. He's like,
yeah, it's like it's the strange response to being accused of sexual indiscretion of any kind. Like, oh, good. I'm glad they're asking me this question. What? I think anger would be a natural response, even if you knew what was coming with these questions at this point. It would start to annoy you that they kept poking you with this thing because you categorically denied it a number of times. I'll let him roll.
Plus, you're not used to it.
Sorry, yeah.
Just very quickly, you're not used to it. Again, we're going back to the whole thing of he's been a prince, he's had a certain relationship with the press, and he's always expected people to take his word. He's not used to being questioned to push back. So stuff like this is disarming him. It's shaking him up a bit, and it's making him like, oh, I'm wondering if he's trying to look down at her notes.
Maybe.
Because she's reading from her notes, and he might be trying to get ahead of her.
Or maybe he's got his own notes. It was quite interesting to note that he brought his daughter to this interview. Like, he was quite cordial about the whole affair, and he brought his daughter to the interview.
Did he? Oh, I didn't know. What, Beatrice or Eugene?
Yeah, I'm just looking around.
Oh, I didn't know one of them was there.
Sorry, I'm just looking around because I can hear my guitar resonating with my voice when I'm talking, and I don't know where I put the guitar. Oh, it's over there in the corner. Oh, nothing I can do about it. There's an acoustic guitar in the room, and it's just set me off. But yeah, he did. Anyway, let's let him talk a little bit more, and I'll pause it again. Or you tell me when you want to jump in.
For that. Shows that I was in Boston, or I was in New York the previous day, and I was at a dinner for the Outward Bound Trust in New York, and then I flew up to Boston the following day. And then on the day that she says that this occurred, they'd already left to go to the island before I got back from Boston. So I don't think that could have happened at all.
There was a
So that one for me was a bit of a strange one. Yeah, you go.
Yeah, well, my thing there is like there would be flight logs for that then, but you will be able to prove you're on the flight, surely.
Surely my defense again, like it seems really weird that so she said that you came to America and that she had sex with you and was trafficked to you in America while you were in America, and he's like, no, it couldn't have happened because I was definitely in America and I definitely was in New York and I definitely flew to Boston and then they went to the island and I didn't. Like, it's like, what? Hang on, like you were there and you were there and you were there and all these things she said, and maybe she might have one day off on the date. And then it could all make sense. Yeah. But my defense would be, no, I wasn't in New York and I didn't go to these things. And she's wrong. But apparently she knows his personal diary and when he's in America all these years ago. And like, how would she have that knowledge?
Because like, once again, we've got the idea of front loading your statement. Well, what you need to understand is I was in Boston that day because I was giving a speech at this place. And then the day after that, I was in New York. And that was for a thing there. So when they're saying that this happened, it can't have done because while I was there, they left for the island already. He's front loading everything before he gets to the no, I didn't. And again, he needs you to believe all that because that's the only way that his position is believable. Once again, another DSPism. The idea that, I have to tell you all this stuff in advance because you need to know all this to believe me. Otherwise, my position is quite weird and questionable. So
I've got
it's not a great defense. and he's also really struggling to sort of like keep a lid on it. He's trying to keep. Need to get this question out. His words are starting to falter a bit, and he's starting to have a little more. Because I know that royals do have that sort of wandering. Well, it's very happy to be here today. The prince's trust, and really do like seeing such marvelous response from the community. They have that sort of reserved. Charles especially does. Andrew not so much, but he is struggling a bit more now.
Sorry,
like me just then.
Can you just on a sort of like, can you turn into frame a little more, or do you want me to flip you? Yes, that's fine. The other way.
About here.
Yeah,
right, okay, cool.
Yeah, just so that we feel like we're looking into the frame together. If not, if you want, I can flip you and you can sit wherever you fucking want. To be honest, which is what Jeffrey. Which is what Jeffrey and Andrew said to that woman. Right, this is the next bit. I can flip you and you can sit anywhere you want. This is
right. See, that's the sort of thing that gets us killed.
This gets us killed. Nothing. I'll take the money. I don't mind. I don't mind. We can delete this off the internet and we'll just take the money. Thanks very much.
You can buy our silence.
Yes,
Chat,
absolutely.
This isn't happening. This never happened.
My career path is to make accusatory videos about high-profile people on YouTube and then have them pay me off for silence. That's like my business plan. It can't go wrong, can it? So I wanted to skip on to this 29-25. I think I might be skipping over the sort of aspect of her accusation and the photograph. So unless you wanted me to, should we bring up the photograph at some point, or do you want to?
I think that's the photograph where he's like, that can't be me because those are my traveling clothes.
Yeah.
Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but that's still a picture of you with your arm round her.
Yeah. It's interesting. He also says in the interview, and I think I might have skipped over that bit, or I might skip over that bit, but he says that his team can't verify that it has been doctored or that it hasn't been doctored. Therefore, it can't be proven to be a photograph. But it's a photograph of a photograph, so you can't prove it. But what he's actually saying is his team couldn't prove that it was doctored.
Yeah.
So that's a bad thing.
They couldn't rule either way. So it's like, on face value, it probably is a picture then, because typically you take a picture at face value unless there's something about it that makes you think this might be doctored.
Yeah, and if
the onus is on you,
like if someone's accusing you, so like the onus is on you to say, I can prove this has been doctored, therefore I'm innocent. Not no one can prove it, therefore I should be allowed the benefit of the doubt. No, it goes in the evidence against you because it can't be proved to not be. Do you know what I mean? This is their evidence. You need to disprove it.
It's on you to prove that it was photoshopped. It's on you to prove that that's like an earlier image of Andrew cut out and pasted or whatever. I've seen it, Your Honor. You can tell by the pixels.
And the funny thing about it
nothing there
is that I could accept it if someone were to say to me, "This is proof this has been photoshopped." If it turned out he was never there, and like the pixelation here doesn't match that or whatever, I would accept it on face value. I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you. So either way, I would sort of be prone to, I'd be happy to put it in either ballpark if it was proven either way. But because I have to just go on what the common, I have to give her the benefit of the doubt that it's real until someone can prove that it's fake to me. That's the way I think I have to see it. Maybe.
Right. I'm going off as someone who who did photography at college and has done like take pictures and as a hobby for a long time. And going off what I know about photographs, there's nothing there that suggests to me that there's been any sort of manipulation. That lighting and the composition of it seems as you would expect from a photograph from around that time. You can see there's a flash on the camera. Him and her is closer to the camera than Ghislaine are paler. They're lit better by the flash. She's obviously a bit tanned like, but she's in the background, and so she's a bit
if it is a Photoshop job,
as a result,
then it's a good Photoshop job, isn't it? They haven't left any little detail.
Very good.
Like,
It's very good if it is, but the idea that his defense of that is it might have been a Photoshop, but I can't prove that.
Yeah, and the way actually,
I traveling clothes.
I should have got him talking about this actually, because I didn't put this on my notes as one of the things that I was going to bring up. But I didn't. Now I realise that we're looking at it. We need to hear him actually saying about the photograph. Maybe it will come up as we play through. But
check the transcript for it. Just give it a sec.
How'd you do that? Oh, you've got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go and have a look.
I'll carry on talking about the photograph. Well. So one of the things that one of the things that stands out for me is that Prince Andrew wouldn't have a photograph taken of himself in general circumstance. It's not the, in general terms, if someone gets a camera out these days with your camera phones, everyone has their photo taken all the time. But even I say, oh no, please don't. I'd rather not be in this photo, or I don't. Let me put on my best hat or whatever. Andrew is a royal, and he doesn't want to be seen in compromising circumstances, and he would know that this photograph is going to maybe be something he doesn't want to surface later, maybe.
Yeah,
so,
I think I actually just about to hit it now. What time are you at on your video?
God, I've got more windows open than Buckingham Palace, which is quite appropriate today. 29:24. I jumped on from 27.
Oh no, you're quite ahead. It's 25 minutes.
25. Yeah, we'll just go back there and have 25 minutes. Yeah.
I have no recollection of that photograph ever being taken.
Okay. Yeah.
So why would somebody have put in another hand? You think it is you next to her in the photo?
Hand.
Oh, it's definitely me.
Slightly.
That's a picture.
Oh, I muted him.
I don't believe it's a picture of me in London, because when I go out in London, I wear a suit and a tie. That's what I would describe as those are my travelling clothes if I'm going overseas. So I've got plenty of photographs of me dressed in those sorts of sort of kit, but not there.
Just to clarify, so you think that photo has been
like,
faked?
right. It's like if that picture of Cat was described, that can't be a photograph of us because that's not how I wear my glasses. When I would be driving, I would be wearing my glasses. Where I was out that day, I would have worn a different shirt because when I go out, I wear my jeans and things.
He is wearing essentially a suit without a tie and a jacket. So if you just take off a jacket and a tie, that's what you're wearing then. So your defence is, I'm wearing a suit normally, so it can't be me. But in this photograph, you appear to be wearing a suit. So, what's your defence?
It's the sort of thing where it's like you're in now. You come round to my mate's house. It's like, yeah, Andrew, take your coat off. Take your coat off, hangs it up. It's like, Andrew, come on, you can relax. You don't need the tie on. You're
sweating, Andrew. You're sweating all over the sofa. Take that jacket off.
Andrew, you're all right. You look hot, Andrew. You should probably take. You okay?
And since you've got that sweat problem that you can't sweat, it's going to kill you. So you better take that off. The only thing that actually I would say though, he doesn't bring this up as part of his defence. Really, he says that. I get the impression from the way he talks during his it can't be possibly
nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
Like the way he sort of says, I don't recollect it ever being taken. It puts me in the mind of someone who, again, has maybe had a lot of accusations and just bats them away because look, I think he assumes people will assume. Like the general public will look at this and go, people try this all the time with Prince Andrew. They're always and assume that they would think. So the way he says it, I don't recollect it. I've been taken. It's almost like a very polite way of saying it's bollocks. But he's such a lovely guy and a noble guy and a prince that he's not going to say it's bollocks. He's going to let everyone else assume that because they know it is. But he's just going to say, look, I can't say that it's doctored. I'm not going to lower myself to saying it's bollocks. Do you know what I mean? There's an element of this. Almost assumption that he's going to be agreed with.
It feels like to me, like when your parents are like, you can do anything with computers these days. That's not. Well, it could be photoshopped. Yeah. Because now you can talk about any picture. Well, it could be photoshopped. It's like, well, then prove it. Nobody could prove whether it was photoshopped or not. Well, then why are we assuming that it was photoshopped? Because that's an extra step. That involves somebody going and deliberately faking this, where the alternative is you were there and this is a legit photograph. And the supporting evidence that we have for this is this photograph. It's you that's casting doubt on the validity of this photograph, and it's you that's failing to prove your accusation about this photograph. You say, because there's a different colour in the arm, and it's like, have you seen Charles's hands? They've got that thing where your body retains water and your fingers and your toes sweat. You can't sweat. Yeah, that's why. That's why that makes it even more like him then. Can't sweat, so all the water goes to the hand and swells up.
With all of this, it's strange, isn't it, that we've got an actual photograph, and in today's day and age, we're unable to really... I would actually categorically state as well, I'm on the side of it being real, but if you tell me, we looked at it in a lab and decided it was not real, you can't visibly see, but there's these reasons why, I'd accept that as well. So today's day and age, we can't necessarily take a photo at face value, and we sort of accept that as well, don't we? I think he might be playing on that idea a bit much here, because It looks a lot like a photo. The strange thing is, why would you do that? Why would you have your photo taken with this potentially, like, okay, he's divorced at this point, but is this not a potential come back and bite you moment? Like, isn't he over there saying to Jeffrey, give me the camera, Jeffrey? Give me the camera.
Are we assuming that Jeff took this?
Apparently so, yeah. Emily Matleys does corroborate that. Let's let her say it, actually. Yeah, let's just fucking let her say it.
You don't recollect having your hand round her waist in Ghislaine Maxwell's house on any occasion, even if it was a different date?
I'm terribly sorry, but if I, as a member of the royal family, and I have a photograph taken, and I take very, very few photographs, I am not one to, as it were, hug, and public displays of affection are not something that I do. So
yeah, I'll pause that if you want, yeah, because we had a picture of him earlier, didn't we? Sweaty
How many
Prince.
pictures of him in the nightclub with his arms around someone, or like dancing with someone? You know, I saw that red ball.
Yeah, that was for later. Prince Andrew sweating, images, and here he is with his, like, you know, pictured with people in nightclubs, like. Yeah. So we've definitely, yeah, it seems a strange thing to suggest that he's not been pictured like that when all we know of him for like 10 or 20 years was he's pictured in these positions.
Right there's a woman, and he's got, look, right there, there's one just down there. Just a little bit further down. They look like he was about to kiss her.
This one.
A little bit further down.
There's lots of them. No, this one.
There. Yeah, look, he's got his hands around her.
It's a strange. It's such a strange defence, isn't it? When that's something that he's known for doing. But yeah, he goes on.
Randy Andy.
That's the best explanation I can give you. And I'm afraid to say that I don't believe that photograph was taken in the way that has been suggested.
Why would people not believe that you were there?
I'm sorry. Why would?
I'm just trying to understand. There's a photo inside Ghislaine Maxwell's house. Ghislaine herself is in the background. Why would people not believe that you were there with her?
During that question, he's actually displaying a body language symbol of he's covering up his neck. It's like defensive. Like it's
get ready to,
it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah.
You bring yourself down and get ready to either take a hit or you get ready to, you're bracing yourself. Yeah.
Oh, they might well wish to believe it, but the photograph is taken upstairs, and I don't think I ever went upstairs.
Come on!
In his house.
You sure?
I mean, yeah, because the dining room and everything was on the ground floor. You
just gone for a piss
as you came in the hall.
There's a photograph of you upstairs. I've come around this person's house, Ghislaine, my good friend, for dinner. I'm Prince Andrew. I can't remember ever having gone upstairs, so that's going in that's definitely an evidence of me definitely not having been there, because I said that I can't remember going upstairs. Like, what?
So I don't remember ever going up.
Dinner at your mate at a place where you've stayed before, and you've not been to the bathroom. You've not gone upstairs, because this is this is in London, isn't it? Ghislaine's apartment was in London.
Yeah.
So the idea that your bathroom isn't upstairs, Ghislaine, I'm really loving having this talk with you, but I just need the loo. Be back in a minute.
And they don't show, like, this is another thing, right? You're a socialite. You're a London socialite. You've got the Prince has come to your house. You don't say, do you want the tour? Would you like to see my bed?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Would you like to see the drawing room upstairs? And we just had this bit done by the new designer of thing, and they like these rooms and the decor. You'd show him round. Like, yeah, I don't believe it for a second.
Andrew, this is Virginia. She's really keen to meet you. Obviously, for a young girl meeting a prince, that's quite a big thing. Let's have a photograph.
Yeah. And Andrew, in that situation, of course, say no. Absolutely, I'd rather not have a photograph with some young girl around around your house. Let's not do that. Like, I'd have my hand up in front of the lens while they were taking it, because I'd be worried about the connotations. But yeah,
particular photograph. If the original was ever produced, then perhaps we might be able to solve it. But I can't.
You can say categorically that you don't recall meeting Virginia Roberts, dining with her, dancing with her at Tramp, or going on to have sex with her in a bedroom in a house in Belgravia.
For me, that's really difficult because he says yes each time again. And you said to me earlier that that's admonition of, like, I recognise the accusation coming at me. But to me, it's
She's
almost
saying,
like...
you can't seriously, her questioning again, and he's agreeing with it. So you're saying that you can't have done this. Yep. Or this. Yep. Or this. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Because I would say no, even though it doesn't grammatically fit, like, the structure.
Yeah, you'd still,
She'd say, you didn't
Most
have
of
sex
us
with her.
would,
I'd go, no. And she'd go, you didn't have dinner with her. No. Not
Exactly,
yes. I know I didn't have dinner with her. Like, I wouldn't contextually say it as a positive on a negative. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the right words are here. Hello, Pam Solo.
Yeah. You wouldn't construct it that way. You would. Yeah.
Hello, Pam Solo. Yeah, we run it. Unfortunately, it is sad that because Dark Side Phil is so prolific, we do have to run at the same time as some of other things that we also enjoy watching. But we're on Mondays, so take precedence.
We're going over that being said later as well, aren't we, if we carry on.
But we have to catch up with it, and Phil is so consistent that I think we take precedence as well. I just log that idea in your mind that we take precedence. Put the calm, relaxing music back on, and we'll have this.
In a house in Belgravia.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Do you recall?
Well, he nodded his head. That's body language 101 as well, right? If you're going to say no, you shake your head, and if you're going to say in your mind no, but you're going to say yes, you might. So he's done it the wrong way there.
I categorically tell you it never happened.
It never happened.
Do you recall any kind of sexual?
I think put emphasis on it because again he's responding to her going, so you're saying this never happened. He's going, that never happened. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, but again, most of us would respond the other way. Most of us would respond negatively. So if she's going, are you saying this never happened? Nope, that never happened.
Yeah.
So you're saying you never met her? Nope, never met her.
Exactly. Like
you wouldn't
sing with
her,
what you're.
Restate. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I know a little bit, and I'm not. I don't know if you can count me as a body language expert. I did a body language channel for a while, and people listened to it and believed that I had some validity in what I said. So I picked up a few things and watched a load of stuff and read a bit of it. That sort of thing. I think that one goes down as a tick in a box that is a bit of a worry. We're going to do the body language analysis maybe as a 5-hour video on top. So I'll move on to this next bit, which is, again, it's similar to this though. He says yes and no, 29-25 I've got here.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house when she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house. Yes. Once in New York, a month or so later at Epstein's mansion, and once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls. No.
He's shocked, but I mean, that one took him. You can see his eyes. See his eyes widen there when she says a group of 7. Again, references to the act. Right there when she said sexually trafficked for sex. He goes, again, and then when she says in a group of, the image of, group sex, and he's like, it unnerves him. The actual act when it's mentioned, rather than the accusation, it shocks him. It unsettles him.
So is that right? Is that though that it? I read this as
activity.
Because in a legal deposition, 2015, she said she had sex with you 3 times. Once in a London house.
Like, he wants to speak there and he doesn't interject, so he's about right, and then he goes on.
When she was trafficked to you in Maxwell's house.
Yes.
Yes, he says. Like, to me, I would have said no. Like, even on the first one, no, you got that wrong. That's wrong. But instead, like, he said yes, and he's already now in like this defensive mode. He's got his head tilted. He knows where this question is at. He might not be defensive against Emily, but he's defensive against the allegations. So now here come the allegations again.
Yeah.
And then so when it says New York, it's like you're being lied to by a little child who is pretending that, I have never heard this before. I will pull the face. I will pull the concerned face.
Again, right? That's the DSP again, where he goes, New York. Well, no, actually, I was in Boston at that time, so therefore that couldn't have happened, and therefore none of it could have happened. So that's
so
like New York. No.
It's like it's the first time he's ever heard these allegations, so he's like pulling a surprised face. But surely,
Epstein's mansion.
Earlier we saw him with a poker face. able to take the allegations. So it's strange to me that he's now what I would call overacting these emotions.
And
I
once
think
on
now
his
he's a bit more exhausted because this interview's been going on a bit and it's been unnerving him. He's been unprepared for the pushback, so the more that's gone on, the more it's sort of like thrown off his ability to hold that poker face.
And here,
I think
I agree. We're 29 minutes in. You know, I agree, and they've edited it, so it probably has gone on a bit longer. So maybe you're right. He's just fatigued and he can't keep it up. But this expression of shock here to the next allegation, as she increases the level of the allegation, it's almost like, shut the fuck up. What are you doing? Like, how come we're going here? Like, I believe the shock, but not the shock that of the content of the allegation, but the shock that the allegation is being made in this, like, you know, he just said about this stuff and now it's getting worse.
He's probably not anticipating that. He was probably anticipating the, you know, in London, because he's known about the photograph, he's known that's going to come up, so he'll have had an answer for that. He'll have been anticipating the New York one as well, because he's been to New York, he talked about staying at Jeff's place before. Those things are associated, so he's prepared for them. That one throws him off because he's not expecting that. Maybe on some level he's aware of it, but he doesn't possibly think that she's going to bring it up. Yeah. So he's not necessarily got an answer for it ready. Whereas the other ones, he was ready to jump in there when she's like, she says she was trafficked to meet you, and he goes, and then she carries on, cuts him off. So he's ready to jump in, but this one throws him because he's not expecting it.
I'll let him play. Yeah.
No.
No to all of it.
All of it.
Debunked.
Absolutely no to all of it.
Banned.
Why would you be saying those things?
Yeah. Absolutely no to all of it. Banned. That was for me. That's the best bit of denial that he's done, because at least the problem with it is he's pulling in of his neck and doing this weird business. But the content of his conversation there, at least, like, finally, he's given us a categoric and not sprawling, stuttering denial.
All of it.
All of it.
But then she leads him in there. She says to all of it, and he's like, all of it. He wasn't going to say no, just some of it, just maybe to 80% of it, all of it.
Absolutely no to all of it.
And then he qualifies it with the absolutely no, which makes me worried again. That's a problem, because he could have just left it at no, but now it's absolutely no, which again I think is a body language signal of
you want to reinforce the idea that he's saying no to it rather than just say no to it. You really want him to be like, no. Categorically, no, absolutely not. Never happened. No, I didn't take that money for Project 7 trailer.
Yeah. Like, when you start to go on, it becomes less categorical. What have I got next? I don't know about this calm, relaxing music balance that I'm trying to juggle. Maybe I just leave it on or I leave it off, like one or the other, because I can't seem to turn it on and off at the right appropriate times.
Just leave it. It's going. It's good.
It's good. Yeah. Sometimes it gets a bit over the powering for me because I don't choose the balance. Anyway. What am I doing now? I'm doing 3202, positive action. So what happens here is that she literally says about sex, and I'm not going to have like all the sex words in, but he says that a man remembers doing it because it's a positive action. So we'll go from like positive action, yeah?
Oh, God, yeah.
So let's see what he says about this.
But I have no idea. Absolutely no idea.
She made these claims in a US deposition. Are you saying you don't believe her? She's lying.
That's a very difficult thing to answer, because I'm not in a position to know what she's trying to achieve, but I can tell you categorically, I don't remember meeting her at all. I do not remember a photograph being taken, and I've said consistently and frequently that we never had any sort of sexual contact whatever.
She spoke about you outside the court in August of this year. She said, I quote, "He knows exactly what he's done, and I hope he comes clean about it."
And the answer is nothing.
So if Virginia Roberts is what...
I'll pause it there for a minute. I might have got my bits lined up wrong, because he didn't say about the positive action bit there. That was just he doesn't have any recollection and he's categorically denied it. And then she said this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
That bit then just immediately cut her off. He's like, nope, we're having fucking none of this.
It's like
I hope he comes clean about it. I've done nothing.
It's almost as if...
this is going to get worse. This little bit now.
Yeah.
Watching this interview, what is your message to her?
I like the question as well, though, Emily. Like, what is your question to her is an excellent question. So, because, like, what's your message to her? Because his real message to her is probably gone over already via solicitors, which is, here's the offer, shut the fuck up.
Here's the money.
Yeah,
12 million? Is that all right?
It hasn't got to that yet, but obviously we'll get to that at the end. But, like, yeah, but it must have been legally rather just shut the fuck up and take the money. So you can't say here, like, you cannot say, oh, my message to her is shut the fuck up and take the money. He wants the audience to believe that these women are out there trying to discredit him to take some money. Like, he wants them to believe that they're out there for the money. And I think she did herself a great disservice by taking the money, but we get to that at the end. But yeah, like, he can't say that, can he? So this is what he does say anyway.
I don't have a message for her. Because I have to have a thick skin. If somebody's going to make those sorts of allegations, then I'm just going to have a thick skin and get on with it. But they never happened.
For the record, is there any way you could have had sex with that young woman or any young woman trafficked by
This is the
Jeffrey
positive
Epstein
action bit, isn't
in
it?
any of his residences?
No.
Yeah, this is
And without putting too
But can I
fine a
just,
point on
before,
Yeah.
very quickly, right. That right there was immediately turning it on him. No, I don't have a message for her because in this line of work, you have to have a thick skin because people are alleging that you do all sorts of shit all the time, you know. But it turns it on him. Poor Andrew, poor how he has suffered because of these allegations.
Yeah.
Rather than directly addressing the woman that has said, hey, you raped me several times. I was trafficked to you so that you could have sex with me while I was underage.
It reinforces this narrative that he is the victim because people sort of, like, later on he's going to talk about the media and social media, and I think back when it was controlled, the narrative was controlled in the newspapers, it was almost expected that the newspapers were out to get these people and people would sell their stories. Like, you know, you have a fling with someone and you sell your story and then you might be lying, and like there's that whole murky world of that he wants us to believe this is what she's doing. And he's not going to say that's what she's doing, but he's going to allude to it all the time, which is a kind of strange way of doing it. Maybe because he assumes that his audience also believe that from implicit start point, whereas we don't start with that.
He's a royal. He's Prince Andrew. You should automatically believe him. So, yeah.
If
Just the idea
you're
that
a
they put it back on him.
And it is a positive act to have sex with somebody, you have to take some sort of positive action. And so therefore, if you try to forget, it's very difficult to try and forget positive action. And I do not remember anything. I've racked my brain and thinking, oh, well, when the allegations came out originally, I went, well, that's a bit strange, I don't remember this. And then I went through it over and over and over again.
I'll pick up on the last bit after we've talked, because he says something at the end there that I think is pertinent, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah. When it scandal hit.
Can I have a brief moment there? Yeah. Because the idea that, like, you know, when the first allegations came, when I was first accused of having sex with a trafficked young girl, I thought, that's a bit strange. I don't remember that. Rather than, no, I didn't. What the fuck?
Let me think back across my sexual conquests to see if I ever remember one happening at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a particularly young girl. It's like, yeah. I'll go through the old wank bank and think about whether I can remember. Because there was a big fat girl, and then there was this girl, and then there was the time when we had the. I do remember. Yeah. There were trafficking young girls. Jeffrey, it's like that, isn't it? It's like, what?
So I've had sex, but I didn't have to, like, make a positive act to do it, so I don't count.
No, as a man, you have to make a positive act, so therefore you can't forget it.
Never been seduced. Never been seduced by a partner. Never been seduced by somebody you were having a friends with benefit thing with. You know? He's
saying that it's possible that he could have had sex with somebody. Like, if he was a woman, he could have had sex with somebody, and he could have not known it happened because he was, not remembering, because he just lay there. But as a man, you actually have to get up and move about like this, so you will remember it. Like that's what he's saying. It's an active act. Like you can't just. Like,
I think it means you have to make like the first move. You have to come on to a woman. You have to.
Oh, you think that?
You have to do the whole sort of chasing thing, and it's like, no, mate, you don't need to like make.
I think it's a scary, right? I think there's a scary thing that is implicit in this is that it's a proactive act, therefore you would remember it. Implies to me that he's had sex with women who have not been proactive in the environment. I'm not saying he has. I'm saying it could be that you might remember a case where there's a woman that doesn't remember having sex because she was drugged and unconscious and did not have to be proactive in the operation. I shouldn't laugh at that, but like I think he might. I wouldn't think of it as a proactive and a non-proactive circumstance. No. I think both parties are active in the sex, but for Andrew it seems that for a man it's definitely proactive, but for a woman it might sometimes not be. It might sometimes be a passive experience. So I think that's a dangerous thing that he said.
I think he's saying it in terms of just from like the chase. You have to get your eye on a woman. Quite fancy a bit of her, and you're the one that has to put in the work over that night at Tramps. You have to get her drinks or whatever, and then you have to take her out for a pizza, and then it's you that has to do all that. But it's like that's not true of every sexual encounter you'll ever have.
You have to
get plenty of sexual encounters that have not followed that path. There are some where I've been seduced by the other person. The other person be like, "Hey, you fancy a fucker?" Like, yeah, go on then. There's other times where
that's the level of seduction we require. A text message. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's fine. But yeah, but don't buy me chocolates.
Straightforward and honest. Sometimes I want to be seduced, blind and dined, but other times like, yeah, let's go, fuck it. So, but it's like other times in relationships where it's just like. Couple of minutes, fancy quick one. So there's all sorts of varieties to sexual acts, and the idea that that you remember them all because you're proactive in them is fucking ludicrous.
It's a weird thing to say.
It just doesn't resonate at all. But then maybe that's I'm not of the upper class. Maybe it is like that. Maybe you do have to pry them with profiteroles.
Fright, it says in chat here, he's implying that someone's taken advantage of him, like that. Being proactive, he's the one, but in other cases it might be that they're like, again, it's this idea of
I see what you mean,
predator and prey in the situation, and he's again the victim, isn't he, where somebody's like setting him up for this. I would have had to have been proactive, but I think another thing he says here as well,
I'm thinking, when the allegations came out originally, I went, well, that's a bit strange, I don't remember this.
That you visited the Palm Beach.
Where am I? Hang on.
No, nothing.
This bit. It was there then. After he says nothing.
Through it.
I've been through it. So he's talking about his recollection of it and trying to remember it, yeah. And he says this.
And then I've been through it and through it and through it over and over and over again, and no, nothing.
Nothing. There's nothing. What have you been through over and over and over again then? What have you been through and through and through over and over again if there's nothing? How can you go through nothing over and over again? Like, to me, that seems like he's been in a room with somebody, who he 100% trusts, and he's gone through this. Okay, so I met her at this nightclub, and this happened, and then this, you've got to tell me everything, Andrew, we need to know, sort of business. And then, like, they've organised his defence based on what, do you know what I mean? He's been through it over and over again. Like,
the way I took that, right? Okay, the way I took that is he's such a Chad, Andrew. He's such like this huge dicked baller. He's constantly having sex with people, and so when someone's like, "Hey, do you remember me? We had sex," he has to go over and over. Did we? Where were you? Were we in New York? I've been to New York a couple of times, and yes, we did. Yeah, we did, didn't we? November 17th. Yeah, we had sex. Yeah, nice to see you again.
I've been through it though. Like, for there to be an incident, a specific incident, you had sex with this girl at this place, and he's to say, no.
At your mates. At your mates.
Yeah, and he's to say,
I don't know about you, but I remember banging someone at my mate's house.
Yeah, it didn't happen, but I've been through it over and over and over. I've been through it and through it over and over again. Like, what? My immediate question would be, what is it you've been through that you've thought through? Because you'd think, I was at Jeffrey's, I didn't have sex with her. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't. There's nothing to go through. And then we had sorbet for dessert, and then I went to the bathroom, and then I came back, and did I have sex with her then? Like, no, it's just like no, like you just know, don't you? Like, did you or didn't you?
He's been over it again, over and over and over. He remembers ordering the quattro formaggio with extra sauce. And then they went home because he had custody that week.
Yeah.
So they watched, they rented something from Blockbuster and they watched that for a bit. Fucking dating myself there.
This is interesting that I picked out. This is when he talks about advice about his defence.
Well, I'm like everybody else, and I would have to take all the legal advice that there was before I
should just get a question in.
That sort of thing. But if push came to...
So
So I don't know. I mean, this is, you're asking me to speculate on things that I just don't know about.
You seem utterly convinced you're telling the truth. Would you be willing to testify or give a statement under oath if you were asked?
Well, I'm like everybody else, and I would have to take all the legal advice that there was before I was to do that sort of thing. But if push came to shove and the legal advice was to do so, then I would be duty-bound to do so.
How do you feel about that?
I want to know how Meth Bear feels about that if they're still here. But I mean, like, no one's asking him to actually do it, but they're saying, because it's a statement of truth. It's a reaffirmation. It's an affirmation of your belief in the truthfulness of your position. So if they're saying, would you say it under oath? You just say yes. They're not asking you right now. Here's the Bible. Put your hand on it and say it. They're just saying, hypothetically, would you? And the answer to that, if you are fucking innocent, is yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you believe in the truthfulness of your position.
It seems strange that he's got this elaborate. I'm like everyone else. Like, what? Where is he going with it? Like, it's just a straight yes/no answer, and he gives us that.
It's Phil again.
And I would have to take.
And also, he's shaking his head, which is body language.
All the
No, I wouldn't.
Advice,
I'd have to take the legal advice. And then I really want to pick up on this last bit about being duty bound.
Before I was to do that sort of thing. But if push came to shove and the legal advice was to do so, then I would be duty bound to do so.
If the legal advice was to do so, I would be duty bound to do so. I wonder whether there's only one person that could advise Prince Andrew, and that's the damn Queen. She was still alive at the time, and if the Queen said do it, he's duty bound to do it. But if the lawyer says do it, he's not duty bound to do it. Do you know what I mean?
The idea that he's like, he wouldn't personally do it. He's doing it because he's duty bound to do it. He personally would rather not. But his duty demands, Britain expects that the eighth in line to the throne will do his duty. It's that rather than just yes, I would be willing to testify under oath to my innocence. Wild. Sort of like the linguistic game of snakes and ladders that we're playing here, where every answer has to go places before it gets back to the end of the board. Mental.
Do you know what, actually? I'm going to leave the annoying, relaxing music on it as well. But I've noticed that I've edited out a couple of my points for the sake of brevity, and I think we're at 2 hours here. We can actually go back and maybe take a couple of those points before we finish off the final points, because we're doing okay for time. So I've got 1639. He doesn't regret it. So I'm jumping back now.
Okay.
Sorry to do this in a way, but I think we can.
No, it's cool. Jump back and forth. No? Oh god, yes. Right, yes. This was a bit I had. Cool.
He was doing.
Announce this breakup when you got back. Why wouldn't you publicly explain what you'd done? Did you worry that he had something that could compromise you?
No.
Do you regret that trip?
Yes.
Do you regret the whole friendship with Epstein?
Now, still not. And the reason being is that the people that I met and the opportunities that I was given to learn, either by him or because of him, were actually very useful. He himself, not as it were as close as you might think. We weren't that close. So therefore,
I'll stop him there. Like, he wasn't that close, but he had to fly to fucking New York to talk to him to break up
for
with
4
him.
days.
But yeah,
at his place. Yeah.
The idea that he, when asked directly, do you regret it? The answer is no. I met loads of good people through Jeffrey, the paedophile.
Do you regret that trip? Do you regret that trip? Well, Susan, it's been lovely. Do you regret that trip? Yes, that's fair. Because that was a bad idea. So to say I regret that, yeah, fair. Do you regret your friendship with this known sex trafficker? Well, you see, I met a lot of people through him, so because you, as like a prince, you as a royal, have no way of meeting rich and famous and powerful people. You needed him. You needed Jeff to be able to do that. So, otherwise you would never have been able to do it. Certainly wouldn't be able to do it through Ghislaine, your actual mate. Yeah. How do you not say, yeah, I regret it. I regret my friendship with him because he's been accused and convicted and gone to prison for trafficking people for sex.
It's insane, isn't it? I think this alludes to this idea again that in some way he's surrounded with people who inflate him to the point where he it's almost like a Jesus complex of how good he is, like how noble he is. Like, do you regret being friends with the sex offender? Like, well, Jesus was friends with a prostitute, so Mary Magdalene. So no, I don't regret being friends with him. I mean, I did so much good through the meeting of him. You got to remember how much good we did together. The paedophilia just sort of, it's a footnote. It's a blot on the copybook. But no, I don't regret it. Like, what? How does he even get away with saying that? I'm surprised by that one. And it seems so obvious again that you would just say no. Wouldn't you just be like, do you regret? Oh, sorry, yes, you'd say yes. Do you regret it? Oh God, absolutely. It's been such a fucking nightmare. All this stuff that's gone on since meeting that chuffer. And do you know what? He was up to all this other stuff. He was up to he's dead now, bear in mind, for this interview. Andrew should be saying, yeah, do you know what? I really regret it. And I can name some other names as well, you chuffers. Do you know what I mean? Like, where is his... Like, I'm so noble because I flew all the way to New York to talk to Jeffrey. But I'm not noble enough to sort of absolutely admonish him and, remove myself. Oh, he's terrible. No. Yeah.
And again, and that's not even sort of like considering the distancing he does there as well, because he's like, well, I met people through, but were we close? We weren't close. I don't know if you call us close friends, but we sort of associates maybe, but I weren't that close really. So I don't know if there's much of a friendship there to regret in the first place, because we were really friends. Then, just hung out and played Street Fighter in the arcade cabinet at his place. Made movies together.
Yeah, it's a bit like that.
No, sorry, I mean, just went over to meet him and say goodbye for 4 days and stayed at his place. Yeah.
But he actually,
there's footage of me waving him goodbye at the door.
There's actually a point where Andrew, without going to jump to that point in the interview, where he sort of belies this sense of it's honourable to do the right thing, to go to New York and tell him face to face, and you wouldn't do that with someone who you didn't have. It was almost like we're such handshake, good business partners, good moral people that I have to go and see. Well, no, I had somebody I just don't even barely know him, wouldn't even fly to New York to talk to. Do you know what I mean? Like, what? It's either one or the other. You either don't know him and don't regret, or if that's the case, you don't need to fly to New York. You just it doesn't bother you. Like, it's a strange state of affairs. I'm going to jump back towards the end now again. Then, so we're at 41-24 is a problem to me because they all knew him. So let's just scroll back to Emily in this question.
Those things that I'm already doing.
I wonder what effect all this has had on your close family. You've got daughters of your own.
It has been what I would describe as a constant sore in the family. We all knew him. And I think that if we have a conversation about it, we're all left with the same thing of what on earth happened? Well, how did he get to where he was? What did he do? How did he do it? And so it's just a constant sort of gnaw. I mean, this first came out in 2011, and it was a surprise to all of us.
I'll just pause him there. It didn't come out in 2011, did it? Jeffrey Epstein.
2004, wasn't it?
I didn't nearly say his name again. I've got on my crib sheet here that he was arrested in 2005 and convicted in 2008 for a 13-month stretch on a 14-year-old. So I'm going to vote for...
Because the deposition was in 2004 that happened in 20... Yeah. So...
And then this Virginia stuff is extra stuff on top of, like, he was convicted first of one thing, and then there was an...
and then out of prison.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, this happened later.
What Andrew said was wrong there. And then he also said that we all knew him. Like, it goes back and forth between he's his good friend and he's not his good friend. His entire family all knew him. And that's like the Queen and Prince Charles, and like, that's his family. I mean, or is he just talking about Fergie and the daughters? I mean, that's strange to me, that one. What do you think about it?
It's very difficult because he does veer between, we weren't that close. I had no idea that there were assault allegations against him. He never mentioned it when I talked to him. And yeah, you know, I don't regret the friendship. And you know, all the family knew him. We were all in shock. You know, like everyone. It's like, why were you all in shock if you didn't know him that much? Because if it's one of my friends that's accused of this and goes to prison for this, I'm going to be dealing with that for a long time. But if it's like I hear about the brother of someone that I went to primary school with, it's too distant. I'm not that bothered because, you know, that's nothing to do with me. I don't really know them, you know. So the idea that he's trying to put distance between him because of the horrendous things. But also, don't forget, there was an impact on me and my family as well. It was a horrible sore. We still struggle to talk with it. Like you all out there, you peons, you plebs. We also think, how did he get to do what he did? You know, we feel like you. Never mind that I was friends and I went to stay with him for 4 days to say goodbye. We feel like you do. You know.
Yeah, and if he wanted answers to those questions, he could just ask him when he went to meet him.
Yeah.
Right. This is jumping back a little bit. The women are being heard quite rightly, I've got as my quote here.
I want to talk about moving on now.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
Epstein is dead.
Yes.
The women are now
He
being
laughed.
heard.
Wait. He laughed. I don't want to repeat it because she says the word that we don't want to be saying, apparently.
Yeah.
Jeffrey is dead. And he laughs at it.
The women are now being heard.
Quite rightly.
Quite rightly. This is just it's a little minor point.
How do you move on from this?
I don't want to hear about how he moves on. He talks about his work and stuff, but why is it funny that Jeffrey's dead, and why is it quite right that the women are being heard when, like, isn't one of the women that's supposed to be being heard accusing him of sex crimes? Like, can you?
But no, it's fine. They paid 12 million for that. It's fine. It's the whole deal done. Well, they're about to. That actually happened after this, didn't it?
Happens after,
So it's interesting that got wrapped up very, very quickly after this. So,
but the women are being.
But yeah, that laugh was very unusual. Like if it was one of my friends that had done this and gone to prison and been found out, I don't think I'd laugh about that. I don't think I'd find that a funny thing.
And he's dead.
I think I'd actually be like, for me, I'd personally be like, well,
Jeffrey is dead now, and he's like, yeah.
Jeff's dead. What do you mean Jeff's dead? What about Jeff? Jeff is dead, Dave. They're all dead, Dave. Everybody is dead, Dave.
That was the Red Dwarf. I was going to go, Jeff's dead. Who's Jeff? Jeff's dead, baby. Like, so whose chopper is this? It's Jeff's chopper. Who's Jeff? Jeff's dead, baby. That's Pulp Fiction when they drive off on the Zed's bike. Anyway, I'm getting myself in a tongue-twisted rabbit hole here. I do need to just quickly pop out of the room for a second. So I'll give you a 45-40, I've got pay her off. Let's get you in a flow, and when you're next in a flow, 45-40 I've got here in my next one. Yeah, pay her off is what I've written. Hang on, 45-40. I just need to skip on to it. We're coming towards the end of...
You got to 45-08, just to give us a little...
Yeah, I can give you what you want, yeah. 45-08. So I just press play for me. I just need to quickly nip out just 1 second.
Yeah,
I think
go.
The problem... that we face in the 21st century is social media. There is a whole range of things that you face now that you didn't face 25 years ago because it was just the print media. And I think that to some extent there is a thick skin that you have to have, and again, I'm not a confrontationalist myself. I would prefer to be able to, as it were, resolve things in a way that is sensible. And so choosing to, as it were, get out there and talk about these things,
Oosh.
it's almost.
I'm going to stop him there. Yeah.
No. Just a little bit more.
Mental health issue to some extent for me.
There you go. Mental health issue.
It's almost a mental health issue to some extent for me, in the sense that it's been nagging at my mind for a great many years.
It's been a mental health issue for him. It's
There's
been
so
a
much
mental
in this
health
bit,
issue
yeah.
for him for years.
There's so much in this bit. Do you want to talk? Do you want me to lead us through from the start? Okay, so at the start he says, it was 45:08, wasn't it? He says it's social media world, and
Yep.
Social media, there is a whole range of things that you face now that you didn't face 25 years ago, because
it was only print media 25
just
years.
the print media.
So that's really poignant,
Yeah.
because we're talking about 25 years ago, it was just the print media. And who was in charge of the print media? Well, Maxwell and Ghislaine Maxwell. And she's involved in this whole thing.
Maxwell's been dead longer than 25 years, surely. But yeah, either way, I get the point you mean. Yeah,
we're talking about his world.
Control the story.
We're talking about his world and how they control the story. And also he says that you're coming up against social media in these days. Now that's ridiculous, because you've got a public-facing PR company, like the Royals have a public-facing PR company, certainly after Diana, where it's all about creating the narrative, controlling narrative, the modern media, they're involved in it, they understand it. To say you're coming up against social media implies that you're a villain and that they're holding you to account on social media. It's not that, no, I don't worry necessarily when I'm using Twitter that I'm coming up against Twitter. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's almost like a sense of guilt. Like, we in the past just had to control the narrative in the newspapers, but now we can't control social media, and it's a problem to us. Like, that statement to me is huge. Do you want to riff on that?
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing that I got, that it was much easier for us to control the message when it was just that, and now anything can get out, and so I now have to have a thick skin, and all this has been really difficult on me, because previously I would have had control over this. Previously, probably would have just paid her off and then never have heard of it. It would have never made the papers, you know? But now that we're in a world of social media where anyone can tweet it or post about it on Instagram or whatever, it's much harder for me to get rid of it. It's much harder to sweep under a rug. So yeah, that's totally him bemoaning the loss of like power over the narrative that he used to have.
And also maybe
again, the royals have, it goes back to him being a royal and the relationship with the press that they've had for so long. And now that's upended, because while it's still there and they can still be like, the King and Queen are proud to announce the delightful arrival of their new baby boy or whatever. There's all that stuff still there, but you now have palace insiders are saying this, or somebody who's been to the palace said this, or there's a post that's circulating on social media because somebody saw a picture of this, and all sorts of stuff leaks now and gets to be talked about openly on social media, whereas that makes it harder for him. That makes it harder for him to sort of avoid this whole mate, are you or are you not, and a word that will probably get us in trouble with Susan.
The interesting thing about it as well is that he... What have I got here?
He's putting it on himself again, isn't he? I'm the victim.
Yeah, he sees it as something that could get him into trouble. He's come up against it. I was going to say, yeah, that was it. I was going to say, maybe he's bemoaning a loss of a sense of privacy, that in the past we only had to worry about the news media. So if there was no photographers, I'm safe. But now everyone's got a camera phone, they're all posting it on social media. I have to worry a lot. People can be exposed a lot easier. And back then it was only one photograph that I could say maybe is or isn't doctored. But these days, every time I visit a masseuse, I've got to check the walls for pinhole cameras. And do you know what I mean? There's this whole other layer of today that he's up against if you want to go about your nefarious business. If you're just innocent, you don't have to worry so much about it. It's more about whether you get seen jogging or buying a donut. But it's not such a worry to you, is it? That you could be on social media held to account.
No, for most of us plebs, no. But I mean, every now and then you get like a Twitter main character of the day, but most of the time it's not you. So yeah, it's not as much of an issue for us. Even though,
he's not
like him, we have to deal with social media and how it's changing how we interact with people. It's just that most of us aren't best friends with a convicted and now deceased, allegedly, sex trafficker.
The thing as well is that, like, on social media today, it's much more about Wills and Harry and people like that, and Meghan and stuff.
The next generation of royals.
Yeah,
rather
like
than
he's not
the
really
older
prolific
guard.
on Twitter or anything like that. So I don't think he's actually even coming up against it. It's just that people are maybe talking about, like we are today, talking on a social media platform about his business. So that has to count for what he's saying there for me, rather than, like, you know, he's not on Facebook getting downvoted or on Reddit getting downvoted and worrying about his post. Like, he doesn't use that. Like, it's a very strange. Should I let him roll a little bit more? And
Go on.
Because he also then says,
and I think that to some extent there is a thick skin that you have to have, and again, I'm not a confrontationalist.
To me, I'm not a confrontationalist
Myself,
and
I would prefer to be able to, as it were, resolve things in a way that is sensible.
to resolve things in a way that's sensible. And he does this with his hands, which is a sort of measurement of quantity. And it just says to me, I would prefer to pay her off.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah, basically, it's more sensible to just give you money to go away.
And it's more sensible for you, Virginia.
Yeah, I'm not a confrontationalist, but I will come round to your house for 4 days while we talk.
Yeah, I'm not a confrontationalist, but the best way to resolve me not talking to you anymore is for me to turn up and tell you to your face that I'm not going to talk to you anymore. But for Virginia,
in another country,
yeah, I fly there, and then but for Virginia, who has made these accusations, I think the best thing for us to do would be to non-confrontationally, not in court, having a row, non-confrontationally resolve this in a smart way. So I think, yeah, it's like almost, again, like at this point in the storyline, he like the decision hasn't been made about what she's going to do, and it's almost like a plea to her: let's not be arguing about this. I can offer you some money.
yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. Which is like, considering that she asks, "What's your message to her?" He's like, "I've not got one."
Yeah, exactly. He wouldn't.
This is now it. Like,
yeah.
Let's not go to court, Virginia. Let's just, call me. I'll sort it out. No.
And so, choosing to, as it were, get out there and talk about these things, it's almost a mental health issue to some extent for me.
It's just wrong in so many ways. In chat, to keep our chat rate up, can you tell me what you think his mental health issue is, please? What's Prince Andrew's pressing mental health issue that we need to talk about, these sex allegations? Like, I know in some ways that celebrities use mental health to say, "Oh, you can't attack me anymore because it's a mental health thing." But what?
I get that, especially when you live like a public life, as say like a senior royal. That the press can be an issue for your mental health at times because you are living a life that is full of press intrusion. So it can be difficult to determine, like when it's okay and when it's not for the press to be around you, and when you would like some privacy and what your right to privacy is as a public figure and as a member of the royal family. And there's all that stuff going on in the lives of Wills and Kate and Charles and all the royals. It happens to them all. But having said that, this isn't really a mental health issue for you. No, if you're the one who's being like accused of like sleeping with a sex trafficking victim who was underage multiple times in multiple places where there's pictures of you with her.
Maybe, do you think he means that it's a mental health issue for the victims, so we should talk about it? Or is he casting aspersions on her mental health, or is it really specifically?
It's almost a mental health issue to some extent for me. In the sense that it's been nagging at my mind.
Yes, it's nagging at his mind.
Many years.
Wait.
I know that I made the wrong judgment and I made the wrong decision but I made the wrong decision and the wrong judgment. I believe fundamentally for the right reasons, which is to say to somebody, I'm not going to see you again. And
Again.
from that day forth, I was never in contact with him.
Shall I pause it there? Yeah?
It's not about what I did. It's not about the accusations that are a mental health problem. The biggest cause of the mental health, the reason, basically, the issue for me, Andrew, is that I went to see him for what I believe were the right reasons that people are telling me are wrong. Because it's like I made the wrong decision and the wrong judgment for what I thought were the right reasons. And
I guess in a way, right? This is like
they can't be fundamentally right if they were the wrong. If it was the wrong judgment to make, those decisions couldn't have been fundamentally because they led you the wrong way. And it's like it's not the fact that I'm accused of raping multiple times a girl that was underage who was a victim of sex trafficking. No, it's the fact that I went to see Jeff to say goodbye. That's the mental health issue for me.
Yeah, it's his flaw in judgment is being like what he's done is he said, forget all those sex crimes. The real crime here is that I had a flaw in judgment and I was friends with someone who was a bad chuffer. And in actual fact, I'm Prince Andrew and I don't make these mistakes. I'm not friends with bad chuffers. So I need to look inside and question my soul about why I was friends with a naughty chuffer instead of why I did naughty things. It's like he's removed it, hasn't he? It's yeah, that's what I think he's done.
The subsequent allegations are what I would describe as surprising, shocking, and a distraction.
A distraction? What? Like I was distracted by the arrival of court summons, sexual assault charges.
I hope he means Jeff during this, because otherwise it's like the subsequent allegations of impropriety on my behalf are a distraction. I mean,
it's like he's trying to shape this narrative. It's like he's trying to create a story, isn't it? Like the story is, I went out there and I didn't do anything wrong and I made a lapse in judgment by hanging out with him, and then he's trying to throw this and it's just distract from the fact that he's a bad chuffer, and like he's like telling as if everyone else goes, oh right, yeah, oh I see that, oh I get it, yeah, but actually we're thinking, hang on, wait, you're gonna have to explain that to me again, you're gonna have to reason this out with me again because I can't quite understand where you're coming from. Like it seems like a really, when someone fails to read the room, or it's like you expect in some way for a royal to not be like us normal folk and to not always think the same things and to get the same vibe, but to get it this wrong, to think, and it goes back to where we started as well, which is why did he take the interview in the first place, and why is he saying this sort of stuff? Am I interjecting too much? Do you want to talk on this?
No, because I feel like we're probably leading towards the same point, which is like he thought he started doing this interview and that because he thought he could get away with it. He thought he could talk his way out of it. Now that there was, now that one of the two people that could say anything to the contrary was dead and the other was in jail, he probably felt like, yeah, I'm all right now. I can do this. So, like Daglauer asked, did he really think he'd talk his way out of this? Yeah, and that was like his attempt. It's just wild that he's like, yeah, it's a mental health issue for me, really. And honestly, when I stopped seeing Jeff, and then it turns out that he was trafficking young girls for rich people, that was more of a distraction than anything else. How? I don't like it. He just must not have empathy at all.
It's a weird one because it makes him look worse to say that, but yet he says it believing it's going to absolve him of any wrongdoing in some way, and yet it makes him look worse. And I wonder, at the end we're going to have a little look at the producer and what she said about after the interview, but she said that there was they had a day to prepare, and it was obvious that he'd had a media interview the day before, like with his team, you know what I mean?
They did run him through it, like a practice.
So at some point, I don't know how you speak to Prince Andrew in these situations, but at some point I would have said, probably don't say that at the end there, Andrew, about the distraction. Probably never make light of this and make it seem petty. Like Andrew, someone died and there was sex trafficking Andrew. But yeah, like let's let him. These last 3 minutes, we might as well let play, and because he says 2 or 3 things in the last 3 minutes, so we might as well let him.
Surprising, shocking, and a distraction. But that's. I mean, there are all sorts of things that are on the internet and out there in the public domain that we just sort of go, well, yeah, but I'm afraid this is. It just never happened.
You've talked about it.
So I'll pause that before she does her question. But there are all sorts of things that are out there on the internet and in the public domain, but this never happened.
What? It's fucking wild, isn't it? Not here's evidence that proves that this never happened, but have you seen what else is out there on the internet? It's fucking wild, isn't it?
It's like, but it's almost like he was saying it was true. It was like there are things out there on the internet that are, things get out these days and they get in the public domain. I can't stop them, but this one's not true. Like what? It's not a story's only in the public domain because it's like a true story that, like, do you know what I mean? It's in the, what he's saying is like, once it's in the public domain, you can't restrict it and pull it back. Once people know it, you can't have it back. So there are all sorts of things out there that are in the public domain. If they're not true, if they're lies, you wouldn't say there are things in the public domain. You'd say there are things that are made up, that are spread around.
I need to provide a counter. And Lord help me, I am not defending Andrew here, but that story, oh God, I've just said I'm not defending Andrew, but that story about David Cameron and the pig, never been proven, but that story was in the public domain, never been proven, not a shred of evidence for it. There was like a rumoured photograph of it, nothing, never proven. But so many of us believed it, and we wanted to believe it. So that's the point. That's what mattered. It doesn't matter whether it's
I wonder about public domain.
In the public domain.
Okay, the public domain, the public sphere of conversation. But public domain is also a specific legal term for a story or if you own the rights to something.
It's in the public interest. It's in the public interest.
Public interest as well.
Yeah.
But also public
domain is like old stuff that's out of copyright.
Yeah, copyright. Yeah, exactly. So you can't, like, if you're going to try and stop her from talking and you want to talk about who's got the right to say something maybe, or what's in the public domain and what's not, and what's therefore slander and libel. If it's in the public domain, it might not be slander or libel. There might be that. So I don't know these things. Maybe I should look up on them because we've just done a fucking 3 hours talking about it. But
I think that this to me comes across as this like attempt to go, well, there's all sorts of shit on the internet, and it's not all of it's true. So whatever, you have to just ignore it and get on with stuff. And he's sort of trying to like downplay it and minimize it. Again, it's throughout this, he's consistently distanced and diminished his role in things. He's tried to be like, well, we weren't friends, we were just, I thought I knew him, but it's mainly Ghislaine that I was friends with, not him. He was just there as a friend of a friend sort of stuff. That's why he was at my 18th. That's why he was at my daughter's 18th birthday party. He was just friend of a friend.
That's true. We skipped over that, but Ghislaine was invited, but he came with
Ghislaine was invited to. I think it was Beatrice's.
Convicted paedophile turned up at my daughter's birthday party because obviously I invited Ghislaine and he just came with her. Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Yeah. Gave him a tour of Windsor Castle. It's fine, just like as you do.
But he wasn't.
But throughout it, he's like tried to diminish it. He's diminished like the significance of his links with Jeff. He's tried to diminish the crimes and the accusations. He's tried to diminish all this stuff. And here again is another one of him going, well, there's all sorts of stuff online. It's not all true. You don't ask me about everything, so
I like to think that
just be like that.
I like to think that with Big Jeff's dying breath as they were choking him, he'd say, "They won't stop saying my name." And none of us.
I hope it was Andrew did it.
Oh God! Let's let him talk his way out.
I wonder if you have any sense now of guilt, regret, or shame about any of your behaviour and your friendship with Epstein.
As far as Mr. Epstein is concerned, it was the wrong decision to go and see him in 2010.
So that, if you got any guilt or shame about, well, I shouldn't have done this.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have walked with him in the park and had my photo taken with him. But the other stuff, seems fine.
It's, carry on.
Yeah.
As far as my association with him was concerned, it had some seriously beneficial outcomes in areas that have nothing to do with what I would describe as what we're talking about today. On balance, could I have avoided ever meeting him? Probably not, and that's because of my friendship with Ghislaine. It was inevitable that we would have come across each other. Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah.
Fuck him up, Emily, come on!
I wonder at what point Emily Mattis thought, I'm going to be interviewing Prince Andrew, and at some point I'm going to have to pull him up on the fact that unbecoming, he was a sex offender. Oh, God. And his response?
I'm being polite. I'm
being polite. I'm being polite.
Sex offender.
He was a sex offender. Sex offender. We could do the body language on that all day. He was a sex offender. I'll just pause him about there for a good...
But no, well, you know,
yeah.
Go on.
But yeah, what do you have to say about the fact that it's unbecoming?
Oh, no, I have something more to say about what he said before that.
Go ahead.
Again, you get the whole, you know, do you have any regrets about your behaviour with Mr. Epstein? And he goes, well, in 2010, probably shouldn't have gone and seen him. It's like, she's asking about your entire friendship with him. And in fairness, if you are friends with Ghislaine, let's say, you know, hypothetically, you've known Ghislaine since university and you're in your 20s or 30s or whatever. You don't know that she's really up to all this, but you're still sort of friends with her. You know, you see her every now and then because you're a busy royal and she's, you know, a busy heiress and doing whatever. So, you know, sort of keep up with her every now and then. She's a friend, you keep in touch, but you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And it is inevitable that, yeah, at some point you're going to meet him because she sees him. She starts seeing him and meets him and brings him. But it's like, you could say to her, just don't bring him again. Just, you know, I'm not going to, you know, don't want him round. Don't want him at, like, my daughter's 18th, rather not.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about him.
And not just that, he's convicted. He's convicted at that point. So it's a sorry, Ghislaine, persona non grata, Buckingham Palace, convicted sex offender. It's like he wouldn't be
right. Again, there's pictures of Charles and Jimmy Savile. So, you know.
Yeah, but Jimmy Savile wasn't convicted.
No, because he died.
Yeah, but like to get into the Buckingham Palace event or whatever, the girls' party or whatever.
Point taken. Yeah,
you've got to get past the guest list, and I could say, Jeffrey, I would love for you to come in, but the security won't let you in. Sorry, mummy's word is final, and that's that. But there was none of that. There was just like
I regret that I regret that I knew him and he conducted himself in a manner unbecoming.
Have you got a clicky pen? Have you got a clicky pen?
Sorry. Yeah. But the idea that he goes, I regret going to see him, but I don't regret knowing him because I got to meet other people. It had seriously beneficial outcomes in areas that didn't have anything to do with this. You know, but it's like, you are a royal. You do not need his connections.
That's a good point.
You are his wife's friend. You can use her for the connections, or you can use the fact that you're a fucking royal to make social connections, because that's how that works. You're a royal. You remember the royal family.
That is strange, actually, to think that Jeffrey Epstein's better connected than other people you could meet in social circles, like kings of Saudi Arabia, or like, you know, other people
as a trade envoy, as a member of the Navy, and then later on as a trade envoy, all under the umbrella of being a royal. And you needed Jeffrey to make social connections for you. Nah. And he doesn't regret that. He doesn't regret that aspect of it.
Because put the sex offences aside, we had quite nice dinner parties. You know, we had. I got to meet the the Maharaja of I don't know, some international titles. I don't want to make myself sound ignorant, but you know, I got to meet some nice, interesting people around the dinner table. And then Jeffrey did go off and you know, do that thing to that girl while we were having the cheese and wine. But it's, you know, it's what Jeffrey's like, isn't it? But I got to meet these people. Yeah, it seems ridiculous that he would say that.
If you put all the murders to one side, Fred West did a lovely job on my patio. He really did.
Yeah. There is a question, right? Hello, Meth Bear. Statements are defamatory and false if they injure one's reputation. True statements can be actionable if they make public-private facts that aren't of public concern causing harm. I hope I'm on the right side of all the law today, because, you know... and Daki says all it takes is to own a nice cabin people can stay in. I think it's extraordinary that... like, even at this point,
You are always nicer to the person who's got like a summer home.
even at this point, he's. I suppose he's got to the end of the interview now, so he's just talking, isn't he? But
Yeah.
like,
But okay, even at this point, this is like your final wrapping up. So can we conclusively say you regret being friends with a convicted sex trafficker?
and like, she's giving him a soft
And he's-
question there in a way, isn't she? And he's like
Giving him an out.
fucking it up.
She's giving him one final chance. Yeah.
Like, and he's like, yeah, no, well, I wouldn't say that. I think, what? I'll play him a little bit more.
Offender. But no.
Wait, let's have that again.
Yes.
Yeah, let's have it again. It's great.
Unbecoming. He was a sex offender.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm being polite, in the sense that he was a sex offender. But no.
It's sex offender. I think actually, in
See,
a way.
again-
Sorry, yeah, go
on.
ahead. No, you're the expert.
Right, because again, there's like the direct mention of he was a sex offender, and he's, you know, I was being uncomfortable. He was trying to avoid that topic because it makes him uncomfortable. I was being polite. I was trying to, you know, just sort of like, yeah, okay, fine. He was a sex offender. Okay, yeah. But in that sense, I forgot. That subject, when you explicitly say it to him throughout this interview, when she says, but you know, she was sex trafficked, or you know, a sexual act or sexual assault.
Hello,
Whenever
King
it
Jad
gets-
VCMP. Sorry.
You know.
Hello, King Jad. I want to shout him out.
King Jad.
So much fun in his streams. It's great to see you here. Thanks. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted Steve in full flow.
Yeah.
Sex offender.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
go ahead.
Every time she
sex
says it,
offender.
every time
Do
she-
go ahead.
You better not take these out of context. Every time she says it throughout the interview, it makes him wince. If she ever goes like, you know, the victim, or if she ever sort of like couches it in language that's okay, or, you know, like his actions during this period, or, you know, when he was released from jail after these charges, you know, and anything like that, he's okay with. But the moment she's explicit with it, with like sex, the moment she says sex trafficking, sex act, sexual assault, anything like that, he squirms and he gets really uncomfortable. And even there, he's like not willing to say that he was a sex offender. Instead, he's like, he acted in a manner unbecoming, because he doesn't want to address that. It makes him uncomfortable and he'd rather avoid it.
Do you think that there's two options here that I could forward? One is that he's guilty, obviously. I shouldn't say that too. But one is that he's guilty of these things, and he just like would not, you know, let's talk around the subject, but let's not hit the nail on the head. But the other one, might it be that I'm the prince? Like, you don't say sex to the queen. One says about putting one sausage in the royal pantry or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, there might be some, like, you know, you don't say sex offender in Buckingham Palace. I'm polite because I'm Prince Andrew and I'm a good noble chuffer, and so I wouldn't say sex offender to a woman like you, Emily. But if you put it like that,
It could
Emily,
be, yeah.
like,
It could be that it is a matter of like decorum. It's a matter of, you know, you just don't say something like that in polite society. But it's like, this isn't polite society. You're being interviewed about your links to Jeffrey.
dead known. Oh, I can't say all the words, can we? But you know, Big
No,
Jeff.
we can't. No.
Big
Convicted
dead
Jeff,
Jeff.
yeah.
Big convicted dead Jeff. With his trafficking empire and whatever else. Yeah. Big convicted dead Jeff. I will reiterate, because King Jad just joined us. We're happy if instead of being murdered by the MI5, we're happy just to take the payout. We'll just like, yeah.
Our silence can be bought. Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to delete this off the internet for money, so that's fine. Let's let him roll a bit more.
But no. Was I right in having him as a friend at the time? And bearing in mind this was some years before he was accused of being a sex offender. I don't think there was anything wrong then. The problem was the fact that once he had been convicted,
You stayed with him.
I stayed with him. And that's,
Now at the end, instead of being just saying like, yes, I regret it, he's now saying the problem, if you want to go over it one more time, if you want to bring it up, is that after he'd been convicted of being a sex offender, then I stayed
And
with him.
she doesn't let him go. She doesn't let him go anywhere. He could be like, you know, the problem after he was convicted, maybe I shouldn't have associated with him as much. No, she pins him down to you stayed with him. You stayed with him. It wasn't how you behaved around him. It wasn't that you might have been seen together out in public. Or you stayed with him. She pins into that and wants that addressed. It's amazing. Fucking great job throughout this entire interview.
Yeah, and he does just agree with it, doesn't he? He goes along with it. He's like, yes, I stayed with him. Like,
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I did, ma'am. That's right.
That's the bit that as it were, I kick myself for on a daily basis, because it was not something that was becoming of a member of the royal family. And
yeah, that's definitely unbecoming of the royal family. Yeah.
Darn it! I kick myself for that. I should have. Do you remember? Back in 2010 when I kicked myself for it when I raped that prostitute. I just kick myself on a daily basis for these because the reason is because it's not becoming, as you say, of a member of the royal family. Do you want to dig into that?
I kick myself daily because I used to be friends with a serial killer, and I think of like all the times I went round to his house and saw the bodies. Could do something, you know?
But yeah, looking back now, that head in the freezer was a bit of a tell. Yeah. Now I think about it, what was Jeffrey doing throwing a birthday party for 9-year-olds when he didn't have children? Now I think about it.
The Pizza Express in Woking did look quite like his kitchen.
Yeah, now I think about
Domino's
it.
boxes.
Do you think it was a sex dungeon? Unbecoming.
Yeah.
Unbecoming.
It's not, Andrew. Again, we're going back to this whole, my idea of chivalry and appropriate behaviour is I should go and be a man and stand up to him and say it to his face over a period of 4 days at his place, rather than not saying anything at all and never seeing him again, you know. Which was an option for him. Let's never forget. He could have just not seen him, like most of us would have done if we'd have found out that a friend of ours had been convicted of trafficking people for sex. We'd be like, right, I don't want to hang out with you anymore.
Kick myself over that on a daily basis. Do you think he kicks himself because he got caught and because it came out in the open? Or do you think there is any sense of actual contrition and sadness in this, in this interview?
No, he's done everything he can to try to avoid responsibility. He's diminished and distanced himself from it. He's elevated himself above others by saying, I'm a royal, and all that stuff. He's done everything he can to be away from this and try to avoid addressing it as full on as much as he could. And to her credit, Mateless has pinned him down on some uncomfortable stuff throughout because he's trying to avoid it. He's trying to get this over and done with as quickly as possible. So it's like, right, great, we're done. Public love me again. I can go back to playing golf.
Yeah,
but it's great. Just the last statement as well is fantastic.
And we try and uphold the highest standards and practices, and I let the side down. Simple as that.
It's just not cricket.
This interview has been exceptionally rare. You might not speak on this subject again. Is there anything you feel has been left unsaid that you would like to say now? No, I don't think so. I think you've probably dragged out most of what is required, and I'm truly grateful for the opportunity that you've given me to be able to discuss this with you. Your Royal Highness.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks,
we've got some concluding thoughts, I guess, and then we've got a little bit of other bits and pieces to look at. But she's dragged things out of him, Steve, and he's happy.
Yeah. Yep. He's happy with that. He has nothing else to say in his defence now. He thinks that is his defence, and he has relayed it. He rests his case, Your Honour. He has nothing more to say.
There was a sense of relief, wasn't there, where he's given the opportunity to say any more.
It's like a bit there, right? Yeah,
the right. No.
As he's thinking, should I mention this?
No,
should I mention that? No. Just get it over and done with quickly. This is your way out.
So I think you've probably dragged out most of what is required.
Most as well. That's conditional language. Most is not all, is it? Most is not all. He's talked about what the things in that moment there, right? If he's, I can't help what I'm about to say now. If he's guilty of all these horrific things that you're not supposed to say on the internet, and if Big Jeff is a bad chuffer and he's been around Big Jeff's island, right? At that moment where she says, "Is there anything else you want to say?" and he's thinking about all the things she could have dragged out that she hasn't. Surely that's his laundry list of all the worst things. Probably don't. She didn't get this. She didn't spot that. They haven't seen the photo of this. And like, you know, surely that's what's going through his mind at this moment. And
that's exactly how I read it as well. He's going over, what have we said? We said this, this, and this. Thank fuck we didn't say that. We don't need to talk about it. No, we don't.
And the way he says no is almost like he's afraid, like, no.
Unsaid that you would like to say now.
No, I don't think so.
No, let's not. Like, I wonder what horrors. I wonder what horrors are in his mind. Is there anything else you want to add? We didn't do a full body language breakdown minute by minute, and I did skip out some bits. But is there anything specific you want us to take us to, or go through here that you want to add?
No, I think you've dragged out everything that you needed to drag out of me in this one.
Okay.
I rest my case, Your Honour.
So we're going to do a little palate cleansing. We're going to look at a couple of clips just to finish off. We're coming up on 3 hours on the stream, which is about what we aim for. So we're good.
Yeah. Is this the producer? This is the
producer, yeah. So she's talking to Lorraine.
It's a bit awkward, as you would say. You know, you finish that interview. It is the most terrible interview that anybody probably has ever given, you know.
Still got to stop with that.
I would buy that. I would absolutely buy that, yeah.
It is the most terrible interview that anybody has ever given.
This year, this decade, this century. And I turned to this lovely woman next to me. She was an equerry. Apparently that's a royal executive assistant. She'd been delightful to me. And I don't really know what to say. Because what do you say? So I choose my words carefully, slightly high-pitched. So how do you think it went? And she responds, wasn't he wonderful?
See, that's like, how do you, as Andrew, break out of that mold? Because you are surrounded with yes men. You are surrounded by people who are like, yes, your highness, that was a very good idea, your highness. So I question the sort of, like, you remember like right near the start when he's like, I took counsel on both sides of this before deciding about whether to do
took counsel like, before I decided to.
Did you? Or whatever. Like,
and what are they saying to him?
That's a great idea, your highness.
Yeah, what are they saying to him in that who is this counsel and what are they saying? The only person I could think would be a good counsel would be the Queen. I imagine when he says that at one point, I imagine him having to like I took counsel means I was told by the Queen. Like, you know.
See, like, right? Okay, to me, I took counsel means like my assistant or my friend. I talked to them about it. Like I talked to like, you know, like my royal butler or, you know, like my manservant or whatever, or like one of my friends from like another rich class society. But, yeah.
Call him my jester and also my thinking man and my mathematician. I would like to take counsel. King Jad suggested lawyers. I would think that probably the lawyers are important as well.
Yeah, lawyers. And Beth Bear made that point as well. Lawyers would have told you to shut the fuck up and not do it.
Yeah,
but.
Well, no, hang on, wait. If you're a top lawyer, right? If you're an average lawyer, you give him the correct legal advice, which is to shut the fuck up. But if you're a top lawyer, you say talk about it, right? And let's go to court. And I can't wait to defend you.
Really get your money's worth. Yeah.
Talk away, Andrew. I think
keep him on retainer, like
you know. And they'd say, look, most lawyers will tell you to shut up, but I'm not most lawyers, Andrew. Andrew would be like, yeah.
See, I feel like his like close circle of like his assistants and his butlers, or, you know, like the people around him that serve him as a member of the royal family. He would have been like, I want to do an interview about this, you know, because now I think I could put across my side of the story, and I think I can, you know, explain away these rumors. And as yes men, they're all going to be like, it's a great idea, Your Highness. Brilliant idea. You should do it with the BBC. That Emily Maitlis is really good. You should do it with her.
Yeah, Newsnight, top people. Newsnight, very serious. Yeah.
So, but King Jan, it's interesting you mentioned that Andrew inspired by DSP or vice versa, because I mentioned right at the start when I was watching this and going over this, taking notes, there were so many moments where I was reminded of DSP because of how he structures his answers to questions, and they do start with that sort of wandering, preloading. You need to believe this before you can understand this, and here's my answer thing that DSP does. So there are like a lot of similarities. But
did you have sex with that woman after the nightclub? Well, the thing you have to understand about in Woking and Pizza Express is that were you the one that she claims to have danced with you? Well,
back in the Falklands, I got shot at. And what that did to my endocrine system was...
When I was flying the helicopter, back in the helicopter days. And also, what's interesting, I keep saying what's interesting, I want to shut up, and then I shut myself off. Like, sorry.
No, but when I say ostensibly, yeah.
Yeah, and it's thrown me off now what was actually interesting in my brain that I forgot now what it is. DSP, that was it. So what we are to infer from this actually is that Darkside Phil may potentially have royal blood. Were there ever kings of Italy, authentic kings of Italy?
He does have a very similar hairstyle to William.
That hair,
both got a very similar hairline.
I shouldn't tarnish today's episode by going on too much about this, but adrenaline does cause you to sweat a lot. So maybe with Darkside Phil, he's having these adrenaline spikes, and it's doing. He said this week, and I just can't help but to address this while you've mentioned it because we're here on stream. He said this week that he had authentic Italian hair, and that means it's very greasy. We've talked in the past about his hair. He's not wearing any product. He's not wearing any product. That's just grease. And he puts those hats on every day for $100. The hats never get a wash. Oh, just, it's disgusting. It's natural grease. Yeah.
Yeah. It's King Jan. He probably couldn't learn to do anhydrosis himself because you can't learn that sort of control over your endocrine system. You know, the moment adrenaline's kicking off, your body's preparing to sweat, but it's not you can control that much.
But it's like deherniating. So Prince Andrew is
maybe the Seattle hair that's so healing is also King quite dry. So it absorbs excess moisture.
That's why
it's just grease. There's no moisture, it's just grease.
But that's why Andrew himself has got the same, Andrew's got the same thing, so he goes out to the New York air to make sure that he it's all in the same.
Okay, now before you start playing this, I need to just quickly say that at the start of this is Prince Andrew the musical that we're going to see a clip from. And at the start of this, it shows the actors that play Andrew and Emily sitting down, and there's close-ups of like him getting suits being brushed, and she's having her makeup put on, and she goes, hello, Your Highness, and he goes, hello, Emily, it's lovely to see you again. And then he sort of like glances to the left, and there's a framed picture of Jeffrey on the table, and he leans over and puts it down. And it's fucking hilarious.
I've just got a little clip of it just from the chorus because I just
because I nailed it. Not a word out of place. The Duke's a legal genius and he's resting his case. A new hero has risen who won't go to prison. The sea was choppy, but I'm glad that I sailed it, because I nailed it.
And she sings a corresponding verse, and it is very good. This is the Prince Andrew the musical. If you want to find it on the internet, I know that Channel 4 are going to shut me down if I play a lot more of it. But just to finish off, like we have hit 3 hours now. But just to finish off, the story basically concludes, doesn't it? That Prince Andrew ended up paying out a huge set. We think it's in the 10 to 12 million range.
Yeah, I've heard about 12 million. Is what I've heard. And again, public funds. It comes out of the Queen's money.
Does it? That's another conversation that I didn't know the answer to, so I didn't say the answer to it. But apparently, we're worried that some of our tax money's gone into that. Or maybe he's out there, maybe when he was out there saying to Jeffrey, you're going to have to pay me a lot of money for this because it's going to be settled out of court.
Maybe it came out of Jeffrey's money.
But that's
that's why he was in like Boston and New York. It's fundraising.
Yeah. But this is where the innocent man has his rich mom pay accusers £12 million to stop concerning questions.
That's a good point. How much do you think we could get out of Linda then?
It's interesting to me that there's two ways to look at this at the end, right? Is that Andrew might say, look, she accepted the money. That's what she was in it for. She didn't really want to stand up for sexual abuse, discrimination, or not discrimination. It's not a discrimination, is it? Getting sexually abused. Anyway, look, she didn't want to stand up and, these other women now suffer because, like, we're not having a court case. It's not all being heard. These other women are not coming to the fore. Like, what's happened to them? Maybe they go by the wayside and don't get the money, like, because there isn't now a precedent set. So maybe Virginia did, like, just want the money. Is that, like, do you think that's a reasonable thing for Andrew to turn back on it now that she's took the money?
Well, from our perspective, it's not reasonable, but from his perspective, it probably is. Probably is a reasonable thing to do. You go, oh, it happens all the time, doesn't it? You know, you come on to a girl in a nightclub and she accuses you of sexual assault or whatever, and the next thing you know, you're in prison. And
Literally come on to her.
Yeah. I wonder if, as well as not being able to sweat, you can't produce any other bodily fluids as well.
Well, you know, that couldn't possibly happen. I couldn't have ejaculated on her face because back at the time, when I got shot out in the Falklands, I ejaculated all of my semen all at once, and I couldn't produce any more. So that's. If you want me
the
to
one
prove
time you make sure the camera isn't on.
Oh, is the camera on?
That's what he's saying, Jeffrey, in that picture.
Do you think that it absolves? I wondered whether it does do that damage to the whole. I mean, the thing is, if you're Virginia and someone offers you £12 million, you take the £12 million, don't you? Because it's £12 million. Like, or do you need to have that? Like, is there more to this, like, in terms of ethics? That, like, what I don't know what your price would be, but to be honest, personally, I would accept a lot less for a lot more. Like, to be honest, like, you know, Lucasade sponsorship. Yeah, but do you think, like, you know, is it fair for her to have taken that money? I mean, I don't know if we should even...
That's her decision, ultimately. Yeah. I mean, if she feels like that is restitution enough for her, then that's like her decision. But, you know, that could also be the result of legal advice saying, look, yeah, you know, if it goes to court, you're going to get less, or if it goes to court, this is likely to happen, or if it goes to court, proving this is difficult, so you might lose. And, you know, it's a difficult thing to sort of like make a judgment on, because it's not our decision to make, and we don't know the sort of behind closed doors aspect of it that goes on, because obviously discussions between the lawyer and the client are quite confidential, so we don't know what was said and who said what. And yeah, it's just like, if you are innocent of it, though, 12 million is a lot.
Yeah, and
to
also
stop somebody from spreading rumors about you that aren't true, you know.
Yeah, there is that. It's a lot, but maybe to Prince Andrew, it was the bar that was set, and he just said, like, you know, I'll pay whatever, you know, 12 million's. I'll get that out of Jeffrey's account or something, you know. Like, I don't know, maybe that. I do see it as an admission of guilt from his side to sort of pay her off. I'd rather go to court and prove it. Like,
no.
In one way, you'd rather go to court and prove it. Like, you know, she's saying this about me, right? Let's have it in court. You know, let me be proven innocent in court. Thank you very much, because I'm innocent. On the other hand, he might not want to go digging it all up through the court case. Maybe there was more. You know, maybe there are other people that have said, you know, if you start doing this, other dominoes might start falling. So pay her off, like, because we can't have anyone talking in court. Maybe there was that.
Oh, it's only. I was wondering if Duchy of York came with income, but no, it's only Cornwall and Lancaster.
Also, we can't argue with a Scottish person about the situation, the royal situation, because we won the war, and that's why you have to have our royals. So. But we're all British here now, so I don't know. Like, if we have to pay 50p for the Queen, I'll pay 50p for the Queen, but I'm not giving her another 25p for Prince Andrew. That's the limit for me. So.
Just want to record the King Jedi supports Scottish independence. So.
Do you?
You deserve to be in the EU. I mean, I don't want to be ruled by Westminster, and I fucking live in England.
It would be that's an interesting conversation to have on a different show, because I think it would tear apart the nation, and we'd all suffer in different ways. In the same way as we shouldn't have left the EU, I'd rather see more cohesion and less division.
I'd rather be a union, but I completely understand why other nations don't want to be dragged down by people like Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Yeah, I can understand that it looks bad at our end. Yeah. But rest assured, we hate them too. So, but I don't
really
hate
should, if you can, as an international viewer, watch in any way you can Prince Andrew the musical, because it's fucking hilarious. There's so many times I laughed during it. It's great.
I can put it on without the sound, but that's not so good, is it? But there's a bit of that. And then tying up, then I think we've covered this, haven't we? Like, we've done all the bases. Yeah. We know what happened to the sweaty chuffer at the end, because he did sweat, and he did. So I'd had a picture of Red Dwarf there, and I was going to ask you a random question about this at the end, and then I think we're due for signing up. I had an idea about maybe doing episodes about Red Dwarf in the future. What do you think in chat? is anyone interested in potentially talking about Red Dwarf in the future? Because we do serious week, chill week.
Yeah, and then we have a shitty, not shitty, but we'll talk shit. We don't have any
shitty. Shitty. I worked very hard for this.
Well, look, you couldn't see how well Power Wash Simulator was running on my end.
I had to pay £16 for Power Wash Simulator. It's shitty. Anyway, look, we go serious topic, serious topic, chill topic. The alternate week topic could be Red Dwarf, right? Mm-hmm. So people in chat are the people that I would rather like. They seem to know what Red Dwarf is in chat, so that's a big tick. And I'm just.
We could try to get Sam on for this as well, because Sam's always about Red Dwarf.
I was going to say exactly that. Yeah, we can open the floor to more people, definitely, and Sam would be a good one. So the idea would be on the alternate. This would be next week. We haven't planned it yet. We've just said all together on stream that it's a good idea. So we'll plan it. We'll think about it. What I might suggest is.
I'm seeing like I'm getting flashbacks to. We need to discuss this, chat. We need to come to a determination. What percentile of our?
I want you to vote on it.
Content is meaningful.
If we don't, basically, we'll only do 10 minutes of the episode, and then we're going to stop. And unless we hit a goal, we'll just not talk. Frankly, we'll just. What's the point? What's Dead Dwarf? Right, so Fred Zeit's got right. What we'll have to do is, what I think is a good idea is, if we're going to talk about it next week, maybe your homework is to watch the first series, and we'll limit ourselves to the first series. We might do a first series. What do you think? Episode by episode or series by series, Steve?
I think series by series, because you could at least group 1 and 2 together, because then you've got pre-Crichton and post-Crichton, and then you've got 4, 5, and 4 and 5, 3, 4 and 5.
It's a lot for people to watch in a week, though. Like if we do,
I know, but we
But it's every 2 weeks, really, officially.
So maybe a series a week then. Yeah.
So we can.
Because for me, I sort of mentally chunk them up into this series 1 and 2. Then there's Crichton for 3 series, because then you've got Crichton and Holly as well, and then they lose Red Dwarf, so you've got series 6 and 7, where they're and then the dark times happen. So. Yeah, it's like for me mentally, they're sort of broken up into 3 chunks. So,
right.
Yeah, but series by series is a good one.
There's a lot. Some of the episodes.
First series, there's quite a lot to talk about.
I was going to say some of the episodes are quite deep, and there's quite big stuff that comes out of it. And we can't guarantee a 3-hour episode, or we don't know what's going to happen. But maybe so next week, this time next week, we talk about Red Dwarf, and we do it maybe with an additional person, and the concept is you've watched, even if you haven't watched it before out there in the world of the internet. I'm looking at you now, pointing at you like dark side foot. I'm like a real streamer now. If you in the internet, you have a chance now to watch it for a week. Like watch the first series of Red Dwarf, and it's been
even if you can't, because the first series is kind of shaky as well. That's the issue in it. It really starts to find its feet around series 3.
I guess. Although when you love it, you look back on it and you think it's all good. I guess like it has like
yeah. But I mean, to a new person coming in, especially because it's 80s in it, so it's a bit of an ask. But
I think it's on streaming services.
Not all the episodes of classics. Some were a bit, but even the Mare episodes were pretty good. So especially compared to series 10 and 11, Back to Earth.
I don't think I've watched.
Scum.
We will definitely. This is a plan for next week's relaxed chill street. I'm saying the things the man says. I'm saying the things that man says. For a chilled stream, we'll have some Red Dwarf visuals. We'll chat Red Dwarf series, but we won't. Like I said, in order that everyone in the audience has chance to catch up with this if they haven't watched it before, we'll restrict ourselves to the early days. The early series.
We'll give you a run through. We'll have like a nice intro where we're like, this is a sci-fi comedy.
It would be nice if we created it in the future.
Okay, right. What I'm going to do, I'm going to wear a black polo neck and I'm going to tie me out.
Could you imagine?
We gave him Crichton. I complained about Rimmer, but all I've got to do is put like a little H thing on my forehead and wear a puffer jacket.
Well, I think if we all just wear the uniform and have the letters, then we are. I'm happy with that as a quick rundown from the high ground, and I'll just turn that off. What else did I have lined up? No, I think that's everything, isn't it? We've done Jeffrey Epstein today.
Yeah.
No, we haven't. Oh, I've said his name.
You said it.
We've done the Prince and the Pimp. And we covered all the bases. If we ever get to do the deep 5-hour analysis on the body language, it might come up that we want to do that as a B-side or, you know, further content in the future. Thank everyone. I am thanking everyone that was here in chat, especially some of the big names of the detractor community. I'll keep pumping out the little detractor clips and obviously watching all your stuff as well. And have you got anything to say, Steve? And then I'll cut us off.
Just very quickly, because King Jad has said he's pretty certain Crichton did have to spend several hours a day in each costume, and the rest turned up later. And yeah, there's a great bit, and I think it's series 3, maybe 4, the bonus stuff where he's talking about like getting into costume, and they'd all be out the previous night, so he's getting up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning to go down to makeup to start having like this latex stuff layered on, and he can only breathe through like straws in his nose. And like Craig Charles and Danny John Jules are coming back in, they're like just getting in from having a night out, and they're like, we can go like that, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, see. The thing is, I know the struggle, because to get this stream together, I got up at 2 a.m. and I spent hours and hours in makeup, and like, you know, I do so much work on this. But honestly, it is a.
I just roll out of bed, yeah.
No, but it is a work. Not just Steve works on this as well. Thank you, Steve. Steve, like, you know, I get him doing a bit of research and, you know, digging into these topics. So we do put in some work here, and we hope to move forward. If I send Meerkat my acapella, then I can get into it. Oh yeah, we can have some rap goings on, can't we, King Chad? We can do some. We can start a cipher. We can start a cipher. That's a cool name for a group of people who rap together. A cipher. Oh, right. Yeah, because you have to have a cool name. You can't just be
like
rappers.
A collective group name. Yeah.
Yeah, like
ODST.
Cipher. So like we can do that. I don't do gang signs. It's one of the things you're not supposed to do on the. It's terms of service is gang signs. So I better. Is it? Yeah, it is. I'll stop
West
doing
Side
it.
is the best.
Oh no! What have we done today to get us killed?
The West
and ruined
Stain's massive, man.
Ruined off YouTube. But yeah, thank you everyone. Thanks, Steve. What I was just saying, I was actually making a joke about it, but I was saying it is a bit of work. I know everyone else that does the streaming understands this. It is work, and what we need to do on this channel is drive towards 1,000 subscribers so that we can unlock some extra features of YouTube that will help me make it more sustainable. So thank you for being here. I don't expect you to share it on Reddit or anything. You know, just thank you for being here is the main thing. Thank you, Steve. And as long as we're clear, I'll press end stream if you're happy with that.
I think we're good. Yeah, thanks for coming, everybody. I really had a good time. I do love doing these. And looking forward to growing it, and I appreciate everybody sticks around and comes and watches us, because, you know, like you said earlier, we're sometimes going up against people like King Jad, and that being said, and people who restream Phil. So we appreciate that people come and watch us.
Absolutely. I do apologize if we overlap in some ways, but we have to go at a certain time, and Phil is so prolific that means everyone else is so prolific, so we certainly don't want to become competition. And if anyone has got anything big and we want to shift a couple of times around, we're open to that, to be honest. So yeah, we'll all keep in touch. So you be good, and if you can't be good, then you're naughty, but not naughty like
not as naughty.